Does this work? Does this high IQ piece of garbage? Okay, he's doing it. He's doing the thing. I'm gonna sob. I'm gonna sob and die. I'm gonna actually end my life. He's working! Finally! Wow. This was the most depressing start of a stream ever. We're having a day. We're having a day. Oh Lord. Let's see. Let's get him. Let's get it, everyone. Let's get it. Hello there. Welcome to this stream. I am so sorry. We had a lot of problems. We're here now. YouTube is just very high brain. Very high brain. High IQ. Oh my god, this is a terrible start. Let's see. Where is... AP Chem. Imagine taking AP Chem. That's a low brain moment. Low IQ. Let me grab the link to this. Oh, that's sweet. Welcome. I'm glad that you're here. I think the live streams are probably the pinnacle. Hi there, LS Mark. AP Euro? AP Euro is AP European History. You wouldn't know that because you're like Dutch or something. I don't remember. You have AP Euro tomorrow too? Cool. That's neat. That's neat. Actually, that's not neat. Euro sucks. I hate it. No, it doesn't suck, actually. It's fine. But I don't want to take the test. You know what? I was debating whether or not I should even study, because our Euro teacher was like, y'all are gonna be fine, you don't need to study. And, like, I kinda like that. I kinda like that option. But you know what? We're gonna study. Gonna have a gay time. And we're gonna live. Kaiser, I don't know what your nationality is. Forget. I've said Dutch because I always say German and it's always wrong. But apparently no, you don't care either way. Whatever. I'm just not gonna try. Yeah. I have to study for my AP Euro exam, which is tomorrow. Sorry. Let me grab something. Oh my god. I'm about to break everything in my room. There we go. Euro is weird. I mean, it's not that bad. But as a result of taking Euro, I now hate every person who says that they're a history buff. History buffs are the worst. Let's see. So, my current game plan. Go over the Euro textbook, find names and dates, because I suck at names and dates. Right now, I've gotten through the Middle Ages, which was like that was our summer work. So, now I just have the rest of the book to go through. I think I got past the Renaissance too. I don't remember either way, so I should probably go over it again. But let's see. Oh my god. The Renaissance was boring. The Renaissance was really boring. I hate the Renaissance. I've done so much on the Renaissance. We had this whole ass, like, Renaissance thing. It was really boring. Whatever. Cute. Renaissance sucked. If you think the Renaissance was good, you have low IQ disease. That's just how it is. I might go into the Discord chat just to talk about Euro and shit. The Renaissance didn't make people smarter. The Enlightenment made people smarter. The Renaissance was just sort of there. But yeah, I might go on Discord. So if you want to hop in and chat maybe in the Discord, I might do that. For now, we are just gonna look back at the Renaissance. European society in the age of the Renaissance. Fuck this. I hate the Renaissance. Patronage. Italy. Communes. These hoes. Those hoes. Nice. Humanism. There's so much talk about humanism. They actually said that this year there's probably going to be a bunch of questions about like World War I and World War II, because last year the test had a bunch of questions about like the Renaissance and the what's it called, Protestantism, and not a lot about the World War I and World War II, and they tend to switch around, so probably gonna have to look at World War I and World War II, but we just learned that, so I'm not that concerned. Ugh. In all reality, I could just not try at all on this test and fail it. Well, I mean, technically. Yeah. Yeah, I could get a 60% on every single section of this test and still get a 4, so I'm not that concerned, really. No, that's not what humanism is. I wish it was. Humanism. Virtue. Humanism. A program of study designed by the Italians that emphasized the critical study of Latin and Greek literature with the goal of understanding human nature. Virtue. Or virtue. It's pronounced virtue. The quality of being able to shape the world according to one's will. And then virtuosos, or like people with virtue. Leonardo da Vinci. This fella. Oh, Vasari. That's like, I think that's the heart guy. Like, that's the respiratory system guy or something. I think Vasari. Or no, wait. Was he? I don't think Vasari was that, actually. Well, we'll find out later. Let's see. Whatever. Probably not him. No, that was Versailles. Wait. I'm already confused. Versalius? I have no clue. But it was something that started with a V, and he figured out the heart. Oh my god, why is there a train out there? Education. We're not worrying about that. Castiglione. Never mind. That's how Castiglione. That I pronounced that wrong every single time. Yes, it was Vesalius. Imagine watching PewDiePie. That's a low IQ move. Castiglione. I pronounced that wrong like 15 times. It doesn't matter. Baldassare. In this portrait by Raphael, the most sought after portrait painter of the Renaissance, Castiglione is shown dressed exactly as he advised his courtiers to dress, in elegant but subdued clothing that would enhance the splendor of the court, but never outshine the ruler. That's cute. Who is this man? I don't understand why I read about him. Read on education. Who are these fellas? Fidel. Okay, so Castiglione made The Courtier, and that was like about court life, so princes and shit. So Castiglione is princess and shit. And yeah, that's what he did. So The Courtier is just about like rich people. No, not rich people, noble people. Ooh, Cesare Borgia. Machiavelli, that's someone I know. He wrote The Prince. Yeah, that took me a second to remember. So that's him. Machiavellian, that's who he is. He said, we had to read this book. It was really stupid. I read half of it and then I figured out the entire rest of the book. The Prince. Judged. So whatever. That's him. Christian humanists. They can shut up. Christian humanists was in Northern Europe, so that's like Dutch and stuff, because that's where the first Protestant movements came in. I always remember it like the humanism in Italy was driven by the Catholic Church, which was most corrupt. So like there were all these dudes like what's his face? How do I forget his name? The Medicis. Those guys were like really rich in Italy, and since they were really close to the whole Rome, stupid. Reconnect, you dumb whore. Okay, there he is. Alright, welcome back. So, yeah. Returning to what I was saying. So the Avignon, I forget. I'm not gonna look back and see how to pronounce it. It doesn't matter. That's like when the priest got yoinked over to Italy, and everyone was like, I don't like that. And they were like, well, too bad, virgins. The Pope is in Italy now, and you're gonna suck it up. And they were like, shit, guess we'll die. And then there were, like, people aligned with Rome, and then there were people aligned with Avignon, or something, whatever it was, wherever he was last. And now the papacy is pretty much, like, around Italy. So you see a bunch of these influence of Greco-Roman culture and all these really elaborate things. Patronage rises up in Italy because it's the church, a lot of it is funded by the church. The Catholic Church at this time is corrupt and really focused on money, and they're just telling everyone, hey, we're gonna give you money to make really fancy shit. But meanwhile, in the north, they're not as connected to the Catholic Church, so they start taking up Christian humanism and, like, this whole entire rise of lay piety, I think it's piety. So in like the Dutch places, I forget what it's called, Netherlands, all these other places where you'll see guys like Jan Hus, those are the early Protestants. Those are where they're far away from the church, so they're gonna start being like, Yeah, we're really Christian, and we think that the church is corrupt, and that's why that happened. Whew. Desiderius Erasmus. I've got to remember what he thinks. He's a Christian. And he wrote Praise of Folly. Thomas More's Utopia. But that's really easy. What else? Johann Gutenberg stole the printing press. Yep. That's it. So... there we go. So that's Gutenberg. Printing press is, like, super important, so that's the thing. Who the hell is... oh, that's Brunelleschi. No, Brunelleschi. Why did I call him Brunelleschi? Brunelleschi. He's, like, he's an architect, bitch. And so they're building Cathedral of Florence. I don't know who Lorenzo Ghiberti is. He sucks. He's just someone. Oh, he designed the door. Well, he's not important, because I don't remember him. More Medicis. I think it's Medicis. No, none of those are right. It's, Brunelleschi. Pronounced Brunelleschi. Let's see. So those guys are building the cathedral. Michelangelo is painting the ceiling. Because he's a hoe, I guess. Yeah, this fella. Michelangelo just wasn't a painter. And then changing artistic styles. Okay, so this is where they talk about stuff. Giotto... or, no, that's not how you pronounce it at all. It's Giotto. Okay, whatever. Francesca. Ew. Mantegna. These pronunciations are so stupid. Let's see. Pioneered perspective, linear distances. Okay, so this is where they start, like, actually learning how to draw. So they're like, yeah, we're gonna learn how the human body works, and also we're gonna draw a lot of fetish art of buff dudes with small dicks. And they're all like, that's pretty chill. Oh, and also Jesus dying a lot. There's one, Jesus dying. Descent from the Cross. Roger van der Weyden. Aw. Okay, so this is getting into, like, people being super Christian. But, like, mannerism came up at this point. New paints. I think they went from frescoing to, something else. Oils? Titian. Ooh, that is Titian. Does it talk about what he did? Yeah, painting with oil. That's what he did. Renaissance artist. Just talking about that. Oh, Primavera. This piece is important. Remember getting a question about this once. What does it mean? So that's Venus. She's a metaphor for Mary and also for Venus. Glorious. Yeah, she's classical mythology allegory for the Virgin Mary. Captures the ideal female body. There we go. So that's what he is. Social hierarchies, words nobody cares. Slavery was a thing. Oh, Quarrel des Femmes. That's debate about women. That's cool. The concept of gender was not a thing before the Renaissance. Well, it was a thing, but they didn't really have a word for it. Oh my god, that bitch has a thick ass. What the hell? There's this... that man has a... Oh, these are so stupid. They have pictures of outfits of dudes back in the day, and they're really stupid. It's so funny. This one dude has, like, an orb around his dick, and the other dudes are wearing super tight tights, and this one dude has a big ass. It's wild. France. We're getting back. Gotta remember. Oh, I need to look at the dates for this thing. 'Cause this stuff was like... This was happening around before, after the Black Plague. This was after the Black Plague. Okay, so it's 1350s Petrarch. Let me find... When is the Black Plague? That's the 100 Years' War. Okay, so 100 Years' War is happening sort of in and during the Renaissance. Black Death was 1300, so yeah, that's already happened. So this is 1400s, 14 to 1500, but this is sort of happening during 100 Years' War. Now I need to find where I was. Man, I'm remembering everything. I feel like it's on a roll. Let's see. France is devastated. Well, they're sort of getting by. Joan of Arc crowned Charles. That one. He revived the monarchy. Oh yeah, because there were a bunch of Charleses, I think, that were like super, like, cool. Joan of Arc was this French lady who was like, I spoke to God, and everyone was like, okay, and then she led the army. And then I think they won the 100 Years' War. I think. Yeah, France won the 100 Years' War. They got to keep all their stuff. They tortured Joan of Arc. English did. And then I think she got prosecuted for being a heretic, and then she died. And then after that, everyone was like, we probably shouldn't have done that, and they made her a saint. At some point, she got captured, then she went back, and they were like, you're a heretic, and then they burned her. And that's the story. But, yeah. France. So... Charles reconciled the Burgundians and Armagnacs. Should expel the English. Do you people want, like, background music? Let's see. Because I'll do background music. It's pretty boring. Just not sure what sort of music I should do. Oh, Pasteloween has a good playlist. Royalty-free music. That's cool. Might do that. Doing something nice and relaxing. So... Pasteloween has a great playlist of royalty-free songs. I just need to turn it down and make sure it's not weird. There we go. Just gotta turn it down. I've got some Jack Stauber stuff in here. Let's see, are you picking up? Yep, he's picking up. Sweet. That works. Time to look at this. Establishing regular companies of cavalry and archers. What are they doing? Okay, so they're building up their military. France is doing that. Louis conquers Burgundy. Okay, so now these are the Louis. Louis and the Charles, they're having the time of their life. They've got some pretty big dick energy. Louis and Charles, this is France. Anne and Brittany. So France is like growing. And that's the Renaissance. And then there was just a Pope. Concordat of Bologna. Oh, Bologna? Bologna. I forget. I don't know how this one is pronounced. This is something that will lead to the Protestant Reformation. So, Concordat of Bologna. Yep. So that's happening during the Renaissance. Cool. English. There's the Henrys. The Henrys, another one. York, Lancaster. Oh, the War of the Roses. That's the thing that happened. Ducal houses, aristocracy. Let's see. So, hi Andrew. Welcome to the channel and welcome to the stream. We're having a time. War of the Roses, Yorks versus Lancasters. Oh, these are the numbered Henrys. So Edward fights Henry VI. I'm a big fan of Henry VI. Look up Henry VI. He's a fella. I strongly advise you to look up Henry VI. So they were moderately incest. They're not Habsburgs, though. Let's see. Edward IV versus Henry the... Wait. No, this is a different Henry than Henry VI. But there was Henry VI a second ago. But make sure you're looking up Henry VI. Okay, so Yorkist Edward. Edward IV. He wins, I think. Edward, his brother Richard, Henry VII. Oh, so the English has the Tudors. Spain has the Habsburgs. And then somebody else. This is France. Tudors. And then Henry VIII. So up until Henry VIII, they're all pretty much diplomats. Did I totally read? Court of Star Chambers, that's something. Ooh, Catherine of Aragon. She becomes someone. Oh, that's Ferdinand and Isabella. They're the Spanish Inquisition people. These are a lot of names. But we're getting the general picture. So, England right now, they lost the, they lost something. They lost the 100 Years' War. The 100 Years' War was between England and France for some places. I don't know what they were. Avignon was one of them. That was a place where... Wait, was it Avignon? Whatever it was, Avignon was a place where the Papal Schism happened. So they just got over the 100 Years' War, and now they're chilling out. And now... Henry VII. So now England is like, oh dang, we're gonna have a sort of civil war with the War of the Roses between the Lancasters and Yorkists. And then... I remember Henry VI, excuse me. I cannot forget Henry VI. I don't remember how to pronounce them. I know what they're... I don't remember any of how to pronounce them. So yeah, there's Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain. They're gonna go to the Spanish Inquisitions. And now we're getting to anti-Semitism. That's cool. People don't like tax collectors. And that's it. Whoa! Alright, that's all I need to know about the Renaissance, I think. Oh, no, wait. I want to check Spain. What's Spain doing? Oh. Spain is still a bunch of independent kingdoms. The Iberian Peninsula is very Christian. Ferdinand and Isabella. They don't bring stability. Oh, conversos. So, yeah, they don't like tax collectors, and they're just perishing in Spain. Spanish Inquisition, that's what's happening around here. Am I a Transformers fan? Yes, I am. Reformations and religious wars. Alright, so I'm gonna move on to Protestant Reformation now. Let's read 1500 to 1600. Calls for reform of the Christian church began very early in its history. Throughout the centuries, many Christians believed that the early Christian church represented a golden age akin to the golden age of the classical past celebrated by Renaissance humanists. When Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire in the 4th century, many believers thought that the church had abandoned its original mission, and they called for a return to a church that was not linked to the state. Throughout the Middle Ages, individuals and groups argued that the church had become too wealthy and powerful and urged monasteries, convents, bishoprics, and the papacy to give up their property and focus on service to the poor. Some asserted that basic teachings of the church were not truly Christian and that changes needed in the theology as well as in institutional structures and practices. The Christian humanists of the late 15th and early 16th centuries such as Erasmus, urged reform primarily through educational and social change. What was new in the 16th century was the breadth of acceptance and ultimate impact of calls for reform. Jesus. The acceptance was due not only to religious issues and problems within the church, but also political and social factors. In 1500, there was one Christian church in Western Europe to which all Christians, at least nominally, belonged. 100 years later, there were many, a situation that continues today. That's cool. Whatever. Reformation! Cool. So, before the Protestant Revolution actually happened with, like, Martin Luther and stuff, and all the German princes, and you get into, like, the Huguenots and all these other people, they're just hanging out, Calvinists, those hoes, all of this stuff. Before any of that, there were, like, Jan Hus and all these people who were, like, during the Renaissance, who were trying to increase lay piety, or piety, whatever it's called. And they were like the Protestants before the Protestants. And they were thriving. Well, not really. They kind of got murdered. But so this entire thing was going on during the Renaissance and then after the Renaissance. But anyway, let's figure it out. Let's see the rest. So everybody's upset about the fact that the church is corrupt, and Martin Luther, he's like, okay, he's this fella that reads the Bible, gets struck by lightning, and he says, like, well, I guess he likes God now, or something. He fell off his horse, I think. He didn't get struck by lightning. It was Paul who got struck by lightning, but he is not in the Protestant Reformation. So chronology, 1517. Martin Luther writes 95 Theses on the power of indulgences, and he nails his. I think this is the thing that he nails to the door. Diet of Worms. The Diet of Worms, Habsburg-Valois wars. You pronounce that somehow. German Peasants' War. Okay. Turkish victory. Okay. Spread of Protestantism in Hungary. So this is like 1526. In the 1530s, Henry VIII. He's in the 1530s. 1536. Institutes of the Christian Religion. John Calvin. Calvinism is like predestination. Papal approval of the Society of Jesus. Jesuits. Auschwitz, however you pronounce that. Indulgences or like, oh, new Transformers, old Transformers, or Michael Bay Transformers. Well, I'm a fan of Transformers Prime specifically. That's my favorite Transformers show. I'd go with new Transformers just because I don't think Transformers has ever been that good. Like, people really like G1, but it really wasn't good. G1 was not good. I don't like the Bay movies, but yeah, I like Transformers Prime a lot, and I recommend people check it out. I need water. Cool. Okay, so Martin Luther is hanging around, and he is having a day. This is a lot about Martin Luther. Okay, Protestant thought. Ooh, Ulrich, Swiss humanist, Ulrich Zwingli. Zwingli was around at some point. When was this? Okay, so this was before him. So he's like, I think, Huss era. Zwingli, or something. He would not have church from the church prescribed. He would not preach. He would not church. Relying on Erasmus' New Testament. Go right through the New Testament from A to Z. From Matthew to Revelation. So he's like, you're wrong about the Bible. I'm gonna tell the Bible how all the Bible. So we're gonna have more Bible. And they were like, nah, you're not. Diet of Speyer. Oh, I should probably look at the Diet of Worms. Mary Tudor, temporary restoration of Catholicism in England. Peace of Augsburg, official. That's in 1555. Okay, so. And then Edict of Nantes is 1596. So 98. So Edict of Nantes is after Council of Trent and Peace of Augsburg. That's cool. But Council of Trent is before Peace of Augsburg. So there's a twist. No, wait. Council of Trent goes on during and after, but starts at 1545 and goes on to 1563. So that's a long-ass time. And then Peace of Augsburg happens in 1555, so smack dab in the middle. European witch hunt happens. Civil War in the Netherlands. England defeats Spanish Armada. Oh, yeah, because that's like Queen Elizabeth, I think. Yeah, that's wait. Mary Queen of Scots. She's someone that exists. So Mary Queen of Scots and Elizabeth, I think, are the two. Yeah, it's Elizabeth. And they're like, yeah, Mary Queen of Scots wants to bring back Catholicism, and Elizabeth is like, nah, we're not doing that. And then she has her assassinated. And then the Spanish Armada is attached to Mary Queen of Scots, because Philip is like, hey, Mary Queen of Scots, let's do this thing. Because he wants Catholicism, and he was going to marry Elizabeth, and this whole entire thing. But yeah, so England defeats Spanish Armada, and England is having their own thing. They're the Anglican Church. They're them. So they're a fella, and yeah, all this stuff is happening. So they're doing their thing. Let's see. Have I seen the Bumblebee movie? I'm actually not a big fan of it. It's just not, like, the type of Transformers content I'm interested in. You know? I don't really care for Bumblebee as a character, so it's just not. Alright, more Protestantism. Appeal of Protestant ideas. Whatever. Radical Reformation and the German Peasants' War. So Luther and Zwingli. Germany is like, there are a bunch of German princes, because Germany is still like, is it a confederation now? It's something now. It might not be a confederation, but it's still a bunch of states. Germany doesn't become Germany until like right around before the World War I. We're not talking about politics here. We're just talking about European history. So yeah, Germany doesn't become Germany until a while. Now later, it's just a bunch of princes who don't want to be under control of the Pope, so they're all like, yeah, Protestantism all the way. Because Protestants are down for the separation of church and state. Mostly. Sorta, yeah. They just don't want these. Oh, Martin Luther and Katharina von Bora. Oh yeah, and Luther and Zwingli believe that being celibate is a crime of nature, so better have sex. Sorry, incels. Rise of the Habsburg Dynasty, my favorites. Oh my god. War and diplomacy are important ways that states, whatever, I just want to read about incest. Habsburgs. Holy Roman Empire Emperor Frederick III, Habsburg, who was ruler of most of Austria. Gotta remember that Austria is there. Austria, and then Ottoman Empire. Frederick III. So he's Austria. So the Habsburgs were kind of all over, but they were mostly centered in Spain, I believe. Ow, I hit something with my hand. Eleanor. Princess Eleanor. Okay. Imagine being named Eleanor. That sounds like it sucks. Sorry, I was just thinking about that. I was just thinking about Eleanor. Okay. Who is Maximilian? I don't know. He's not important. Habsburgs, I think, were Catholic. Such as wars in Switzerland and Germany. So they're still doing their thing. They're hanging out. Spread of Protestant ideas. I'm thinking once I get past a certain point, I'm gonna do, what is it? Once I get past a certain point, I'm gonna do a voice chat in my Discord server. Cause, like, I need to focus. I need to focus on this part, because this is, like, a long time ago. This was beginning of the year. It's a weird name. It's spelled Eleanor. Gustavus. Ooh. So, what is Scandinavia doing? First area outside the empire to officially accept the Reformation. Kingdom of Denmark, Norway. Cute. Oh, Thomas More. Oh yeah, doesn't Thomas More get appointed to Henry VIII's thing? He's like his, Well, this is about Henry VIII. Thomas More gets appointed to his chancellor. So he's the, yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Thomas More wrote Utopia, which is a book about, how everything would be really cool, and nobody can decide what it means. But, yeah, so Thomas More is the chancellor to Henry VIII, who is the kills his wives guy. He's also really fat, and fun fact, when he died, his corpse exploded. And that's what I took away from history this year. Adulterous incest. Jane Seymour. Cute. So, Henry VIII just tries to, like, he wants to be important, so he puts himself as the head of the church, and then that sort of branches it off, and then we get the Anglican Church, which is the church is headed by the highest religious figure is the monarch of England. Henry VIII. He's doing upholding Protestantism in England. Ooh. Protestant ideas, significant influence on religious life in the country. Thomas Cranmer. That's Archbishop Cranmer. Book of Common Prayer. Ooh. So that was like, they were telling people, that was like the first religious book written for people who weren't fancy. Yeah. So like Thomas Cranmer has Book of Common Prayer written, and that's like, because one of the big reasons that Catholicism had gotten so corrupted was that nobody could understand the Bible. So then Cranmer comes in and he's like, hey, here's a better Bible. And everyone's like, oh my god, I got a Bible. Or something. It's not a Bible specifically. It's just a Book of Common Prayer. Whatever that means. Spanish Armada. Ooh, this is talking about the Elizabeth stuff I was talking about earlier. Skipping that. Papal Reform and the Council of Trent. I need to look at what the Council of Trent is because it's weird. I know what it is, but it's like, it's stupid. Okay, they're just not going to talk about it. Whatever. Religious violence. Cool. Oh, wait, where was the Habsburg Valois wars? What was that? Where was that? Where is that? They did not explain that. Okay, I'm just gonna assume that we don't need to know that. Okay, so Spain is the victor. That's all I'm gonna worry about. Politiques. Ooh, they're the moderates. Only the Restoration. Strong. So this is kind of like, people are starting to go back, because this is leading into the whole constitutional monarchy thing, where everyone's like, yeah, your monarchy sucks, and they're like, what are you gonna do about it? And they're like, constitutional monarchy, dummy. And then they're like, well, duh, why didn't I think of that? But so yeah, that's the constitutional monarchy. But this is leading into that, because now they're kind of like, do I want to have a monarchy? Do I want to have a republic? What do I want? And nobody knows what they want. So, but the politiques in France is like, Edict of Nantes. That is important. Granted liberty and conscience of liberty of public worship to Huguenots. Because they're like, that's sort of what's going to start it. Because they're like, we want Protestant rights. And then Catholics are like, nah, we're not going to do that. And then princes are like, we're gonna do that. And they're like, oh, dang. But yeah, that's something that happens. What else? So I've got to remember, Huguenots are French Calvinists. I thought that they were Catholics the other day when we were reviewing it, and that was not right. Union of Utrecht. Northern Provinces led by Holland, Union of Utrecht. Okay, so they're like saying, we don't want to be Catholic, and they're just going off. They're yoinking. They're yoinking from Spain. Great European Witch Hunt. I know about this. We're skipping. European Exploration and Conquest. This might be a good thing to go over, because we did not do this in class for some reason. We did not talk about, like, the commercial revolution and the transatlantic trade, whatever, the slave trade. We just sort of skipped that. So I'm going to go over this really quick. Marco Polo travels to China. Ooh, this is going back to 1200? What is this? No, this is 1400 to 1650. I'm just going to remember what time this is. Cortes conquers Mexico. East India Company. East India Company is important. Incan Empire, Mexican Empire. So authorized in 1518, slave trade is authorized to the New World colonies. So around this point, they're also colonizing. So that's pretty cool. That's actually not cool. Genoese and Venetians. They're like, yeah. Technology and the rise of exploration. Ooh, this is important. Ptolemy's geography. Whatever. Problem of Christopher Columbus. That sounds like a commentary channel video. The problem of Christopher Columbus. Whatever, this is all Christopher Columbus stuff. This is like 6th grade. Spanish conquest in the New World. Mexica Empire. That becomes Mexico. Inca Empire. They are just snapping people left and right and taking slaves. The Genoese. And then, never mind. I can understand why we didn't go over this. It's just all boring. Columbian Exchange. Oh, that's a thing. That's exchange of animals, plants, and disease. So that's where they're spreading all the bad shit to these poor colonies. And it's really sad. So, silver. Oh, that's something that's really important. Because they're, like, getting a bunch of silver. And that was, like, something we didn't learn about at all, but it's really important. So, there's a bunch of silver, and they're, like, taking it from the New World, and that's gonna, like, increase the value of things, I think. Yeah. A bunch of inflation happens. Silver did not cause the initial inflation. It did, however, exacerbate the situation. So there was already an inflation going on, but then a bunch of silver gets taken from the New World, and then it gets put into the colonies, and then into Europe, and then a bunch of inflation happens, and then there's the commercial revolution, and the birth of a global economy, because they're trading in a bunch of stuff, and they're giving a bunch of people new goods and stuff, and transferring things, and look at that. I'm really smart. New ideas about race. Transatlantic slave trade. That's important. They're getting a bunch. The reason they were all conquesting was because they wanted materials. Wow. So that's that. Ooh, we're moving on from that. That was really boring. So now we're on absolutism and constitutionalism. So that is 1589 to 1725, so 16th to 18th century. Despite the lavish lifestyles of wealthy nobles and royals, the 17th century was a period of crisis and transformation in Europe. Agricultural and manufacturing slumps led to food shortages and shrinking population rates. Religious and dynastic conflicts led to almost constant war, visiting violence and destruction on ordinary people and reshaping European states. With Louis, what number is that? That is 14. With Louis XIV of France taking the lead, armies grew larger than they had been since the time of the Roman Empire, resulting in new government bureaucracies and higher taxes. Yet even with these obstacles, European states succeeded, not succumbed. And by 1680, much of the unrest that originated with the Reformation was resolved. Cute. These crises were not limited to Western Europe. Central and Eastern Europe experienced even more catastrophic dislocation, with German land serving as the battleground of the 30 Years' War and borders constantly vulnerable to attack from the east. In Prussia and the Habsburg Austria absolutist states emerged in the aftermath. In Prussia and in Habsburg Austria, absolutist states emerged in the aftermath of this conflict. So keep an eye on Prussia and Austria for later. They're going to become important. Way later, but later. Let's see. Russia and the Ottoman Turks also experienced turmoil in the mid-17th century, but maintained their distinctive styles of absolutist government. So they're going to become monarchs. They're going to stay monarchs. Ottoman Empire is going to stay monarchs up until it dies, and Russian is going to stay up until the Russian Revolution. They're just having their day. Ugh. Russian and Ottoman empires seemed to foreign and exotic to Western Europeans, who saw them as an antithesis of their political, religious, and cultural values. While absolutism emerged as a solution to crisis in many European states, a small minority adopted a different path, placing sovereignty in the hands of the privileged groups rather than the crown. Historians refer to states where power was limited by laws as constitutional. The two most important 17th century constitutionalist states were England and the Dutch Republic. Constitutionalism should not be confused with democracy. The elite rulers of England and the Dutch Republic pursued familiar policies of increased taxation, government authority, and social control. Nonetheless, they served as influential models to onlookers across Europe as a form of government that checked power of a single ruler. We've got so much to go. Alright. 17th century crisis. So, 17th century is the age of crisis because why? Okay, so they're like stagnating in population growth because of climate change and religious divides, war and all this stuff, because there's got the 100 Years' War, the 30 Years' War, that was religious. And now they're just like, oh my god, we're so tired. So they're not having a good day. So France under Louis, commanding European leadership. They're all living their life. So let's see. Chronology. Serfdom's consolidated from 1500 to 1650. So we're seeing the decline of serfdom. There aren't very many serfs anymore. Ivan the Terrible is 1533 to 1584. Henry the Fourth. Henry the Fourth. Okay, so there's Henrys in France now. I do not like that. So Henry the Fourth in France. He's going to do something from 1589 to 1610. Time of Troubles. Oh, that's Time of Troubles. I remember that. Austria and Prussia grows absolutist. So they're all absolutist. Western Europe is like having a day. They're living their life. English Civil War. That's a thing that happens. That's Cromwell and Charles. So now there are Charles in England, but thankfully we got rid of them before anything could happen. So long, Charles. Louis the 14th. Oh, Louis the 14th in France. Cromwell, the Protectorate is Cromwell. 1660, English monarchy under Charles II. So then the Charles come back for more. And they're like, it's Charles time. I'm just trying to figure this out. Hang on. Cossack revolt. Louis XIV. Peter the Great. Ottoman Turks are pushed out of Hungary. Edict of Nantes revoked. Ooh. So remember that from the Protestant Reformation? Well, France just said, we're gonna yoink that. And they did. He snapped. Glorious Revolution in England. And that's just replacing somebody with William of Orange. And then War of Spanish Succession. That is important. 30 Years' War. That's the thing. Holy Roman Empire. And Peace of Augsburg is deteriorating. And then Protestant Union versus Catholic League. So that's a thing that's happening. Peace of Westphalia ends that. And then the warfare and army grow. Absolutism in France and Spain. Louis XIV. Ooh. He was like rich bitch. He is just a rich bitch. So, absolutist France, the monarchy is living lavishly, and this is going to lead up to the French Revolution way later. Louis has a lot of wars. Mercantilism, that's when the monarch or the government would control all of the economy and just gobble up a bunch of money. Kind of absolutist Spain. So Spain is not as absolutist anymore. War of Spanish Succession. Yeah, War of Spanish Succession was ended with the Peace of Utrecht. So that's him. Let's see. And then Austria and Prussia. Austria and Prussia. Return of serfdom and the Austrian Habsburgs. So Austria is just sort of going backwards. Because, of course they are. They're a bunch of incest people. Development of Russia and the Ottoman Empire. So this is like Russia's happening. Peter the Great is the guy who travels a lot and says, I'm gonna look at all these Western things, and he tries to be nice to his people. Thermidorian reaction. That was French Revolution. We're getting to that later. Thermidorian reaction is like, because there was something that happened in Thermidorian, which is like a month that they made in their French calendar, because the French were like, we want a calendar because we're French, and so they made a calendar. And then Thermidorian, something happened in Thermidorian, and they did that. So England and Netherlands are constitutionalist. Republicanism, absolutist claims in England. So let's see. The Cromwell establishes a military dictatorship called the Protectorate when he wins the English Civil War, which is like a mix-up between the upper houses of Parliament, which are basically nobles, and also, what's-his-face, the king at the time, who I completely forget his name, but he's not important. He's probably like he was a Charles. Yeah, he was Charles. Charles won. And then he got kicked out. Charles versus Cromwell, and then he got kicked out, and then Cromwell got kicked out. Cromwell also did something mean to, I think it was Ireland? I think it was Ireland. He did something gross to Ireland, so people, like, spit on his grave all the time. So, that happened. And, so all this is going on. Cromwell, he is the fella, and yeah. But then the restoration of the English monarchy happens. And what... So, to answer the question, what was the attitude of the states towards Puritans, Catholics, and dissenters from the established church, and what would be the relationship between the king and the parliament? So they passed the Test Act. This is during the monarchy, against those outside the church. So the Test Act is... denies people who have a different religion from Anglican Church to vote or do anything, basically. And then constitutional monarchy and cabinet government. This is all just more stuff happening. Now they're reforming, and the Glorious Revolution is gonna happen. Dutch Republic. The Dutch Republic, in the meantime, is just having a great time. Ooh, Baroque art and music. That's like, let me see. There's like Baroque and then Roroque. Whoa, there are too many stupid Roques. Nobody cares, they're all the same anyway. Baroque comes from the Portuguese word for an odd-shaped or imperfect pearl. Overblown and unbalanced. So it's like exaggeration. They're all really, really exaggerated. But that is absolutism. Now we're going to Enlightenment, I think. Yeah, towards a new worldview. So, woo! Basically, we're starting to get the idea that maybe absolute monarchies are bad. And then the Enlightenment starts to happen. So let's see. The intellectual developments of the 16th and 17th centuries created the modern worldview that the West continues to hold and debate to this day. In this period, fundamentally new ways of understanding the natural world emerged. Those leading the changes saw themselves as philosophers and referred to their field of study as natural philosophy. 19th century scholars hailed these achievements as a scientific revolution that produced modern science as we know it. The new science entailed search for precise knowledge of the physical world based on the union of experimental observations with sophisticated mathematics, whereas medieval scholars looked to authoritative texts like the Bible or the classics. Early modern natural philosophers performed experiments that relied on increasingly complex mathematical calculations. The resulting conception of the universe and its laws remained in force until Einstein's discoveries at the beginning of the 20th century. In the 18th century, philosophers extended the use of reason from the study of nature to human society. They sought to bring the light of reason to bear on the darkness of prejudice, outmoded traditions, and ignorance. Self-proclaimed members of an Enlightenment movement, they wished to bring the same progress to human affairs as their predecessors had brought to the understanding of the natural world. While the scientific revolution ushered in modern science, the Enlightenment created the concepts of human rights, equality, progress, universalism, and tolerance that still guide Western societies today. At the same time, some people use their new understanding of nature and reason to proclaim their own superiority, thus rationalizing such attitudes as racism and male chauvinism. So that's going to become a thing. Scientific thought. Natural philosophy. Let's look at the chronology. 1540 to 1789. So this is all 15th century to... what was it? 15th century to 18th century. So the Renaissance was way earlier than that. They're just having the time. So this is around the same time as absolutism and constitutionalism. Thomas Aquinas. Aristotelian. So I remember a lot of this stuff because we talked about it a lot. So the scientific revolution is 1540 to 1700. The Enlightenment is a bit later than that, actually. So the scientific revolution is when a bunch of people are figuring stuff out, and the Enlightenment is like, well, we're gonna think different. So now they're thinking different. Growth of book publishing, Rococo style. Rococo, that's what it is. War of the Austrian Succession. So there's another succession. Spanish succession is different. There's Austrian succession. Ooh, Maria Theresa of Austria. She is Catholic, I think, and she is religion. Frederick the Great of Prussia. He's somebody. Encyclopedia. So philosophies, that's something to remember. 7 Years' War. There's the third however many years war. There's so many years war. Catherine the Great. She's another important person. So they're enlightened rulers. Catherine the Great, I think it was Peter the Great, and then Maria Theresa, I think. Copernican hypothesis. So Copernicus is the guy that theorizes that the Ptolemy's view of the universe is wrong. So Ptolemy, I think, was either... I don't know, they had some weird ideas. They were like, the universe is just a bunch of, like... It's just a bunch of shells, and there are planets just inside those shells. And then everyone was like, yeah, I agree with that. And then Copernican hypothesis, I think, was that heliocentrism? Oh, Revolutions of the Heavenly Spheres. Okay, so he is talking about the crystal spheres. Yeah, so what they're doing. To justify... so he's destroying Ptolemy's view, and he's destroying Aristotle's view. So this is gonna because everyone was thinking that the Earth was the center of everything and Earth was super special. But then this dude is going to come in, Copernicus is going to come in and he's going to say, nah, we're not feeling that. And then the Catholic Church doesn't care, but Protestants are kind of like, nah, we're not digging that, because they think it's blasphemous, and they think the Earth is at the center of the universe, and it is in a big sphere, and you are saying the wrong thing, sir, and you're gonna get canceled. But the Catholics are just kind of like, yeah, that's cool. So, that's something to remember. Catholics were fine with him, Protestants were not. So that's Copernicus. Then Tycho Brahe, he was a fella. Brahe, Kepler, and Galileo. So Brahe and Kepler are the dudes that are like trying to figure out how the universe is organized and how it works. And they sort of hypothesize like a bunch of different things. But yeah, then Galileo comes along and he says, yeah, that's about right. So that's heliocentrism there for you. His great achievement was the elaboration and consolidation of the experimental method. Then there's that thing, the law of inertia. So Galileo's inertia, Isaac Newton comes along there, law of universal gravitation, so he's expanding on that. And then they're all happening. Oh, scientific method, this is important. Bacon, Descartes, and... no, not Descartes, Descartes. Or Descartes, sorry. Descartes, that's how you pronounce it. René Descartes. I hate French names. It's stupid. Francis Bacon is easy. But René Descartes. Like, shut up. You're stupid. So René Descartes was deductive reasoning, because he was, I think, therefore I am. Empiricism. So Bacon is the opposite. He is inductive reasoning, so he is empiricism. So the two of those together, they make the ultimate reasoning. So Bacon is empiricism, Descartes is the deductive reasoning. Inductive versus deductive. Empiricism, inductive reasoning calls for acquiring evidence through observation and experimentation rather than speculation. So deductive reasoning was I think, therefore I am, and then empiricism was we are looking at the evidence and then we are making claims only based on the evidence. So it's like looking at an apple and then saying the apple is red, and then deductive reasoning is speculating why it's red. Cartesian dualism. What is that? Oh, the world consists of two fundamental entities. The physical and the spiritual. So he's whatever he's doing. Medicine, body, and chemistry. Paracelsus. Experimental method in medicine. Andreas Vesalius. That's the guy that dissects human bodies, because he was looking at old anatomy books, and he was like already into corpses, so he was already digging up corpses and looking at them, and then he looked at the old book of anatomy that was like by somebody, his name starts with a G. I don't know, I might find him later. But yeah, so Vesalius was looking at a bunch of human corpses, and then he looked at anatomy books, and he's like, these are not correct. The bones are all wrong, and the organs are not right. So then he realized that the old dude was making his just depictions of human anatomy based on animal anatomy. So then he completely redid it, and he drew it up, and he's like, here, I figured this out by cutting open corpses. And Galen, that's him. Galen. So yeah. So he says Galen was wrong. He was just looked at animals. I'm right. Look at my corpses that I cut up. So then he shows them to the world, and everyone's happy about it. Metamorphoses of the caterpillar and moth. That's not important. But yeah, they're all having the time of their life over here. And they're coming up with things, and that's going to lead into the Industrious Revolution. But that's later. The Enlightenment. Cute. So, the Enlightenment is rationalism, all this stuff. So, facts and logic. John Locke, Voltaire, all of these people. That's going to Hobbes. Hobbes is going to come in, philosophies, and they're just thinking about natural rights and stuff and all these things, and that's going to lead into the revolutions. So everything's leading into everything else, and that's the moral of the story. Enlightenment. Ooh, those are a lot of people. Deterministic universe, that's another thing. So they're the philosophers. They're just thinking. Immanuel Kant. Oh yeah, he makes a weird race book on crimes and punishment. A lot of Caesars. Denis Diderot. That fella. That one. Voltaire, Montesquieu, Persian letter. Oh, Montesquieu is Baron de Montesquieu. Or something. Something de Montesquieu. Persian letters, spirit of laws. So he's a dude. Pierre Bayle. Just gotta remember what they generally think. Salons. Those are things that happen. So during the Enlightenment, everyone's describing different races and stuff. So they're kind of fellas. Anyway, Enlightened Absolutism. There they are. That's Catherine, Frederick, and... who was it? Catherine, Frederick, and Joseph. That's him. Joseph was Maria Theresa's son. So those are all them. Yeah. So those are them. Alright, we are moving on. Moving on from the Enlightenment. Expansion. Wait, we might not be doing that one, actually. But this is 1650 to 1800. Let's just read what this is. Alright. Absolutism and aristocracy, a combination of raw power and elegant refinement, were a world apart from the common people. For most people in the 18th century, life remained struggle with poverty and uncertainty, with the landlord and the tax collector. In 1700, peasants on the land and artisans in their shops lived little better and had their ancestors in the Middle Ages, primarily because European society still could not produce very much as measured by modern standards. Despite the hard work of ordinary men and women, there was seldom enough good food, warm clothing, and decent housing. The idea of progress, of substantial improvement in the lives of great numbers of people, was still the dream of only a small elite in fashionable salons. So that's a big issue with the Enlightenment. Yet the economic basis of European life was beginning to change. In the course of the 18th century, the European economy emerged from the long crisis of the 17th century, responded to challenges, and began to expand once again. Population resumed its growth while colonial empires extended and developed. Some areas were more fortunate than others. The rising Atlantic powers, the Dutch Republic, France, and above all England, and their colonies led the way. The expansion of agriculture, industry, trade, and population marked the beginning of a surge comparable to that of the 11th and 12th century springtime of European civilization. But this time, broadly based expansion was not cut short by plague and famine. This time, the response to new challenges led towards one of the most influential developments in human history, the Industrial Revolution, considered in Chapter 20. So, still got 3 chapters to go towards Industrious Revolution. But this is talking about open field system and agricultural revolution. Oh, Navigation Act, Anglo-Dutch Wars, Atlantic slave trade. So this is like, now they're going places. Now, The last outbreak of the bubonic plague happens in 1720. So after 1720, there's no more Black Plague. Goes away. Growth of European population from 7 Years' War. That's coming up. Another year's war. Treaty of Paris. James Cook claims the east coast of Australia, so now they're expanding into colonial territories. They've got more food. Plague's gone. They're having a time. Having a fun time. Enclosure. People is a necessary price of technical progress. So, also in this time, while they're farming and revolutionizing and stuff, the peasants are kind of getting fucked over. And they're just... Yeah, so the peasants are getting fucked over. That's the moral of the story. But they're also getting more food. Sorta. But they... Oh, Tull. He's a guy. He does something agricultural. Long-standing obstacles to population growth. So, around... Before 1800, everybody starts growing a lot. So, the population boom is coming. Population explosion happens. Cottage industry. So the putting out system in the cottage industry is like the precursor to the Industrial Revolution, because that's where a bunch of people are, it's beginning to get into this idea of factories where people start producing things and working together, and they produce like tapestries and stuff. Textiles, it's a textile industry. A merchant loans raw materials to cottage workers who process them and return the finished products to the merchant. So this is going to be the growth of capitalism, the idea of capital coming in, and then also industry and factory. The Industrial Revolution, that's happening. So that's where people move to urban places instead of rural places, because up until then everybody was a peasant. But peasants start to move to urban places, so they're moving into cities, and they're working in factories now. And then the guild system. So this is all just talking about social stuff of the Industrial Revolution. This isn't really talking about the stuff. Adam Smith. He's a fella that talks about economic liberalism. So that's like unbridled capitalism. There are very few regulations, and basically completely denouncing mercantilism. And he's the kind of guy that a lot of big businessmen will like. So, again, all this stuff is the growth of capital and the growth of capitalism and the Industrial Revolution and factories, and everybody's moving to urban places. Vociferous. It's like the name vociferous. Mercantilism. Navigation Acts. So, Navigation Acts, Oliver Cromwell restored the acts require that most goods imported from Europe into England and Scotland be carried on British-owned ships with British crews or on ships of the country producing the article. So, this is just more jargon for the industry stuff. Yeah. Treaty of Paris. Oh, what is this? What is this? What war is this? Conflict in the European powers. Austrian succession. Okay. Frederick seized Silesia from Austria. So Austria and Prussia are not getting along. And then Anglo-French conflict. So that's 7 Years' War is French-Canadian War? No, French and Indian War. That's what it is. French and Indian War is also the 7 Years' War. They're the same thing. But that's France and England fighting over stuff. So yeah. That's what it is. Says main colonies, West Sugar Islands, whatever. So yeah. What was I just talking about? Oh yeah. So now the New World is a thing. America is a thing. Atlantic slave trade is a thing. Growth of capital, colonial enlightenment, trade in Europe. But yeah, that's all we need to know for that. Life in the era of expansion. So the 1650 to 1800s. This doesn't look that important, so we're probably only going to... But this is just, like, talking about families and stuff. Yeah, this isn't that important. So this is just about, like, children and stuff. Whatever. But it's talking about the growth of schools and leisure, literature. So basically, because they're still getting all the silver, so they're going in an economic boom. And they're just having the time of their lives, too. Everybody's having a fun time. The consumer revolution happens. It's a growth of consumer goods, and now a bunch of middle wealthy class people who are educating their kids, buying shit. They're just living. So... yeah, so that's all this is about. Protestant revival, church hierarchy. Ooh, I found a paper. We're gonna ignore that paper. There was a paper in my book. Catholic piety, faith healing. So this is all going on. Oh, that is a weird baby. That's also a weird baby. Smallpox, midwifery. Smallpox happened. But yeah, we're going over that. 19, revolutions in politics. This doesn't look important either. So, ooh, American Revolution. That might be a good one. French monarchy's financial crisis. French Revolution. So this might be a bit important. So this is talking about American and French Revolution, I think. So we'll read this thing just to be safe. So 1775 to 1815. So that's 18th century to early 19th century. Metal, you missed, like, everything. You missed you missed everything. You missed the Protestant Reformation, you missed, colonialism, you missed, all of that shit. You missed the Renaissance. Yeah. Now we are on the American Revolution and French Revolution, but whatever. Also everything else that happened. So 1775 to 1815. A great wave of revolution rocked both sides of the Atlantic Ocean in the last decades of the 18th century. As trade goods, individuals, and ideas circulated in ever greater numbers across the Atlantic Ocean, debates and events in one locale soon influenced those in another. As changing social realities challenged the old order of life and Enlightenment ideals of freedom and equality flourished, reformers in many places demanded fundamental changes in politics and government. At the same time, wars fought for dominance of the Atlantic economy left European states weakened by crushing debts, making them vulnerable to calls for reform. The Revolutionary era began in North America in 1775. Then, in 1789, France, the most populous country in Western Europe and a center of culture and intellectual life, became the leading revolutionary nation. It established first a constitutional monarchy, then a radical republic, and finally a new empire under Napoleon that would last until 1815. During this period of constant domestic turmoil, French armies violently exported revolution beyond the nation's borders, eager to establish new governments throughout much of Europe. Inspired both by the ideals of the revolution and on the continent and by their own experiences and desires, the slaves of Saint-Domingue rose up in 1790. So remember that Saint-Domingue and everybody after the French Revolution in Europe and also in the Americas, they were inspired a lot by the French Revolution because at this point it didn't fall apart yet. American Revolution inspired French Revolution inspires Saint-Domingue, everybody else follows. Yeah. So, let's see. The rebellion would eventually lead to the creation of a new independent nation of Haiti in 1840. So Haiti, that's one. In Europe and its colonies abroad, the age of modern politics was born. Whew. Growing demands for liberty and equality, social changes. So basically, the idea of natural rights comes from the Enlightenment, and then, yeah. So yeah, that happened. So the American Revolution happens in 1775, and that is inspired by John Locke's natural rights. And then France is like, whoa, that's super cool. But the 7 Years' War, Austria's involved in that? Yeah, Austria's involved with that, apparently. Because they were at conflict with Prussia, so Austria, Prussia. Rough. So then, let's see. The American Revolutionary Era. We all know about the American Revolution, and if you don't know about the American Revolution, then, I don't know, you must have skipped 8th grade. If anybody says anything about Hamilton, I will actually throw up. But, alright, the American British pins, all of these stuff, I know all this stuff. You better know this stuff. American Revolution. Revolution in France. So, let's see. Revolution in France. So, at this point, I'm just gonna remember what I learned from A Tale of Two Cities. Yeah, so, the mercantilism was very rife there, and, all the French were like, yeah, the French peasants wanted money, and they were, like, super poor, and there was a bunch of tax shit that happened, and it was really hard for them, and, like, all of the expenses were being managed poorly, because French, like, lost something, I don't know. They were just not having a good time, but all of this money was being spent on this lavish, French, lifestyle, because if you remember back to Louis XIV, he was, like, super rich, and he was having a bunch of parties all the time, and he was just, like, you know, he was having a day, and he was really happy about it, and yeah, so that was starting this entire lifestyle of the super lavish French monarchs, and the peasants were just suffering a ton. They were starving, they wanted bread, and they were just like, we are not having this. And so, this idea of the third estate. Okay, so wait. Emmanuel Joseph Sieyès? So there's this parliamentary government in France called the Estates General, and there are 3 estates. The first estate is for the clergy, I believe, or clergy or nobility. One of them is for the clergy, one of them is for the nobility, and then the third estate is the common people, and that's like the biggest estate, but it also has a limited voting power. But Abbé Sieyès writes, what is the third estate, which calls for action and wants the third estate to rise up and become more important. And then they have the whole tennis courts oath thing, and that's where they recognize and they refuse to disband, and then France is like, oh shit, something's going on. But during this time, there is this, the king of France at this time, Louis, I think. Yeah, Louis is trying to fix things, but they're like, you're doing a bad job. We don't want that. The rights of man. Great fear. Let's see. What is the great fear? The great fear, peasants rise up and they ransack stuff, and that's the Great Fear, and that's the precursor to the revolution. But basically, stuff starts to fall apart, and everything is violent, and the National Assembly grants new rights to people, but it's just not enough, and people are still really upset. So, the Constitution passed in September 1791 was the first in French history. So, the Women's March happens. The Women's March is important because they're like the fish ladies, and they're super important, and they force everybody to, the king and everyone to pass a new, they abolish the nobility, and they make a new constitution, which makes it a constitutional monarchy. But this is not going to last forever. There's also Declaration of the Rights of Women, but that's not important. But yeah, so that happens. World War and Republic in France. So after all this happens and Louis the 16th accepts all this stuff, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go with it, whatever. I just don't want you guys to murder me. They're still like, okay, we aren't happy with this. And then the Jacobin Club starts to form, and that's like a bunch of political extremists who want Girondists, Jacobin Club. Yeah, so Jacobin Club is dissenters, and they're like, we want a second revolution. So the second revolution happens. But they were divided into the Girondists and the Mountains. So the Girondists were moderate, and the Mountain was led by Robespierre, who was a super radical dude. He was like an abbé, and after the revolution happened, he got in charge, and he started being really crazy. So, Girondists versus the Mountain. Those are the Jacobin Club. So they, yeah. So something happens. There was a war. Louis executed by guillotine. And then there's the Prussians had a battle there somewhere. But France is capturing things, and they're everywhere. And, German Rhineland. They're gonna start fucking around with the German Rhineland. And that's gonna become important later in World War II. So that's important to remember. I think it goes back and forth a lot, but yeah. So now, the nobility, or like, no, not the nobility, the bourgeois, nobility and bourgeois are sort of going back at it with the sans-culottes, who are the peasants, and this is in France. And then the Reign of Terror, Robespierre's Committee of Public Safety is like going full on crazy, and they are spreading the Reign of Terror, and they're just going at it. So yeah. There's the Thermidorian reaction. So, yeah. Now, this is all happening. A bunch of guillotines and stuff. Everything is going wild in France. And then, the Thermidorian reaction is the period where, everybody who is... They're like... We don't want this anymore. We are sick of you, Robespierre, and then they're getting rid of all of these old ass bitches. Middle class is, they don't want radicalism anymore. They're like, fuck you, sans-culottes. We're shutting you down. So then that happens. That's Thermidorian reaction. And then Napoleon comes in. And he does his shit. Napoleon, on November 9th, 1799. So this is at the end. Napoleon goes on from there. Napoleonic Code, which reasserted two of the fundamental principles of the Revolution of 1789. Equality for all male citizens before the law, security of wealth and private property. He also supports religious freedom, but he does crown himself the emperor, because he's full of himself. Napoleon's expansion in Europe. All this stuff happens. Napoleon saw himself Grand Empire Continental System. A blockade. Continental System is a French blockade by Napoleon. So Napoleonic era is happening, and that's until 1815. Gotta remember that. Ooh, Francisco Goya. Oh, I love Francisco Goya. Ooh, that's messed up. Cool. There's a Francisco Goya painting in here about the French Revolution. Cool. Yeah. So all this happens. Restoration of the Bourbon dynasty. That eventually happens, and Louis XVIII. So they kick Napoleon out when he loses, and then they put in Louis XVIII, and then Napoleon comes back later, and he gets kicked out again. Then he goes to the Isle of Elba, and now he's dead, and then there's more of that stuff in France. So yeah. Yeah. The 100 Days. But yeah, so now Napoleon's gone. So, yeah, there's the Haitian Revolution, but all you really need to know about that is that it was inspired by the French Revolution. And then we are done with that for now. And now we are on the Industrious Revolution. Cool, we're getting into the modern era. So 1780 to 1850, so late 18th to mid 19th century is when we're seeing the Industrious Revolution. Let's see, let's read this. While revolutions in France and across the Atlantic were opening a new political era, another revolution was beginning to transform economic and social life. The Industrial Revolution took off around 1780 in Great Britain and soon began to influence continental Europe and the United States. Industrialization profoundly modified much of human experience. It changed patterns of work, transformed the social class structure and the way people thought about class, and eventually altered the international balance of political power. Quite possibly the only development of agriculture during the Neolithic times had a comparable impact and significant. Quite possibly only the development. Okay. What was revolutionary about the Industrial Revolution was not its pace, or that it represented a sharp break with the previous period. On the contrary, the Industrious Revolution built on earlier developments, and the rate of progress was slow. What was remarkable about the Industrial Revolution was that it inaugurated a period of sustained and continuous economic growth that has continued to the present day. Although it took time, the Industrial Revolution eventually helped ordinary people in the West gain a higher standard of living as the widespread poverty of pre-industrial Europe gradually receded. It also allowed for an unprecedented continuous growth in population, which persists to this day. Such fundamental transitions did not occur overnight. National wealth rose much more quickly than improvements in the European standard of living until about 1850. This was because, even in Britain, only a few key industries experienced technological revolution. Many more industries continued to use old methods. In addition, wage increases were modest until the mid-19th century, and the gradual withdrawal of children and married women from paid work meant that the household as a whole earned the same or less. Early progress in industrialization earned Britain and the other Western nations to increase their economic and political dominance over other regions of the world. Alright, so what you need to know for peasants in the Industrial Revolution is that they did not have it easy. There was this idea that the Industrial Revolution modernized everything and it made everything better for everyone, but that is not true. Actually, a lot of people say that the condition for peasants in the Industrial Revolution was worse than before it. So yeah, that's a fun fact. Let's see. Hargreaves, the spinning jenny. So most of the Industrial Revolution starts with the textile industry because everyone's looking for new ways to make it better. So there's a spinning jenny and there's all this stuff, and then they start thinking, hey, what if I use water to do energy to make my textiles spin? And then they start implementing water energy, and then there's steam energy, and then there's all this other energy that's starting to happen. And yeah, they're having a time. Ooh, Zolverine. Mind's Act, and then during all this stuff, it's all just going downhill. Spinning jenny, water frame. So now they're creating all this sorts of stuff. Steam engines. Woo! Railroads. Woo! Industry and population. Crystal Palace was a fair. Iron law of wages. So Malthus was the guy who said population. Malthus was the guy who thought overpopulation was going to be a thing. He was like, we've got to control population. And then everyone was like, nah. And then iron law of wages was sort of tied into that. That pressure of wages would always sink to subsistence level. So that was a thing. Tariff protection, whatever. So, let's see. And then a bunch of families are working too. So now there was a bunch of... Well, before the Industrial Revolution, children worked on farms with their parents, and everyone was fine with that. But after people start moving to cities and working with factories, people still do the same thing, and they have their children work. But obviously, it's not good to have child labor, and the children get their fingers chopped off. So yeah, that was cool. But yeah, that's happening. And then cotton mills and everything. Potato famine. Whew. The Factory Acts. So then they restrict children from working, and then they also restrict women from working on the mines, because they would take their shirts off, and people thought that was not Christian. And then this creates a sexual division of labor, which is the whole entire separate spheres ideology. So the whole entire idea that women belong in the kitchen and men belong at work begins with all these regulations to keep children and women out of the workplace and industry. Yeah, so that's all happening. Testimony. So, the separate spheres ideology and class consciousness. So, basically, nobility isn't really a thing anymore, and people are... the whole entire idea of capital is really getting big. Luddites. I forgot about them. Originally, people would, like, protest machines and stuff. Artisan workers had a rough time. Karl Marx. Working class in England. So this is all leading up to all the other stuff that happens. But that is all for the Industrial Revolution. And now let's see, what are we getting into next? Metternich. Metternich. That's a big thing. Anyway. I'm thinking of starting the voice chat in my Discord. I'm thinking of going into voice chat and just chilling out while I study, so I don't know. If you want to, like, hang out and also chime in, then I don't know. But I'm gonna do voice chat. So that's the thing. Alright. Anyway, that's happening. So let's see. Should probably turn up my volume. Let's see. Let's turn back the music. I'm gonna turn it down so I can think. And then, alright, so chapter 21, ideologies and upheavals. So this is going into the Metternich principles, so that's Germany, and they're thinking about all this stuff. So that's, like, Germany as a thing, and then he's going to set up a bunch of, like, diplomatic and political things that will eventually... They'll just fall apart, and that's going to lead into the World War I. So that's connecting things. But anyway, let's read this subject. The momentous economic and political transformation of modern times at the beginning of the late 18th century was the unfinished revolutions, the Industrial Revolution in England and the Political Revolution in France. Would play out the unpredictable consequences in the first half of the 19th century. Attempts to manage the progressive forces associated with the French Revolution led to the reassertion of conservative political control in continental Europe. Following the leadership of Austrian Foreign Minister Clemens von Metternich, the aristocratic leaders of the great powers sought to stamp out the spread of liberal and democratic reforms. Political and cultural innovations made possible by the unfinished revolutions proved difficult to contain, however. In politics, powerful new ideologies, liberalism, nationalism, and socialism, emerged to oppose Metternich's revitalized conservatism. In literature, art, music, Romanticism, an intellectual and artistic movement that challenged the certainties of the Enlightenment and fed the growth of popular nationalism, captured the intensity of the era. Successful revolution in Greece, liberal reform in Great Britain, and popular unrest in France gave voice to ordinary people's desire for political and social change. All these movements helped launch the great wave of revolutions that swept across Europe in 1848. Cool. Congress of Vienna. Napoleon, after Napoleon's defeat, so this is all happening post-Napoleon. Everyone's like, we don't want another Napoleon. And so they come to Congress of Vienna, and then Metternich is the Austrian bitch, and he's like, okay, I've got some plans, fellas. And they're creating this balance of power, which is going to be really important when we eventually get into, what is it? World War I. Yeah, that's what it is. Let's see. So yeah, one of the things he did was establish Germany as a confederation, and then he's gonna pop off. Metternich and conservatism. So he's conservatism. Ooh, he looks grody. There's a portrait of him, and he looks really grody. Yeah, he looks super grody. Metternich. Gross. So let's see. Alright. Conservatism, tradition. So now they're looking at tradition. They repress the revolutionary spirit. Holy Alliance. Okay, so now we're getting into these alliances. There's a bunch of alliances that are going to lead into the eventual Axis powers and Allied forces in World War I. Not Axis powers, they were something else. Or wait, were they Axis powers? They were something in World War I, but Axis powers was World War II. Holy Alliance. So that's Austria, Prussia, and Russia. So Austria and Prussia were okay. Metal, if you want to go into a call, you can. Just as long as you behave. And Italian Kingdom of Two Sicilies. Universal male suffrage not states. Okay, Metternich. So Metternich's upset about. Okay. Austrian and Prussian leadership used the Diet to enforce Carlsbad decrees. So that, yeah, that's German stuff. But Germany is going to eventually, under Frederick of Prussia? I don't remember. I think it was Frederick. But yeah, Prussia is this big thing in Germany that's going to come all together, and then they're going to form Germany. Who else? Principal ideas of liberalism. These fellas. Ooh. Laissez-faire. That's hands off. Nationalism. That starts to happen. So now, all of these things that are held in a bunch of empires, all these people are gonna start getting mad. Because, like, Ottoman Empire, Austrian Empire, all of these empires, people are starting to get, especially in the Balkans. Balkans are important. Remember the Balkans. That's like Serbia and shit. So, remember the Balkans. Balkans is in the Ottoman Empire. And the Ottoman Empire is going to fall down. And then everyone in the Balkans is going to be like, we don't like you anymore. And then they're like, well, fuck off. But yeah, this is really important. All this starts happening. So nationalism is really super important. Hi there, Kirk. Welcome to the stream. Romantic movement. Okay, also, Marx is here, and he's talking about the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. Marx and Karl Marx and Frederick Engels published Communist Manifesto in 1848. So that is around the time that the Industrial Revolution is happening. Metal, just don't be a bitch. That's all I'm asking. Okay, so yeah. Romanticism happens and they're just chilling out. Literature. So that's a bunch of stuff. Friedrich. Reforms and revolutions before 1848. So conservatism is still being challenged. Greece. Oh yeah, Greece is going to have a civil war later. That's important. Battle of Peterloo. That is something that happens. What is that? Hang on, I need to look at what this is. Corn laws. Okay, so this is stuff that's happening. Britain is getting reformed because they suck. And Battle of Peterloo is like... cavalry breaks up a demonstration. That's the Battle of Peterloo. Reform bill. So now they're making things better. People's Charter. And anti-corn laws. Free trade. They're like... Yeah. So now Britain's getting better. Ireland's having their famine. Revolution of 1830 in France. So now Napoleon's all the way gone. And now France is like, we still want a government. And so then they get rid of the Louis. And then they make a republic again. And they're just having a rough time. They're having a rough day. Democratic Republic in France. So now they have a Democratic Republic. So this was all happening in the span of all this up until 1850. But yeah, Prussia is forming into they have Frankfurt and shit. So they're going to form into Germany. Life in the emerging urban society. Whatever. This is not important. Utilitarianism is, though. Utilitarianism is a rational looking at of a thing, and also just skepticism. It's encouraging skepticism and encouraging individualism. Lots of isms. What are you saying? Irony. Irony, you lack so much brain.
I didn't say anything.
Your mic roboted so much. I didn't even hear it. It was just, there was nothing there.
All I did was come in and burp, and I didn't say anything. Probably lagged out.
Yeah, you lagged out a lot. That was really bad. Whatever, I don't care. We are not talking about anything, actually. We're just talking about stuff in the Industrial Revolution. Let's see, working.
I know a lot about that.
I'm pretty sure you don't. You probably don't. You're stupid.
I don't.
You don't?
I don't.
Okay, so let's see. We're past that now. This is not important. Not important. Not important. Feminist movement, not important. Not important. Darwin and natural selection. Ooh.
The truth.
Darwin and natural selection. That's gonna lead into, what is it? Social Darwinism. That's something that happens. But yeah, evolution is a thing that's happening at this point. Realism is... What?
Or some shit. I thought you were taking your...
Yeah, this is European history.
You dumbass.
Fuck you, Metal. That's why everyone thinks you're a fucking girl.
What does that mean?
That doesn't make any sense.
That literally doesn't mean anything. Irony, you lack brain.
I might lack brain, but at least...
They've left the building.
I never had.
Napoleon. Oh my god, Napoleon 3. Napoleon 3 is here. Sorry, we're moving on to chapter 23. Age of Nationalism. So now Napoleon 3. Napoleon 3.
Man, I've seen Napoleon Dynamite at least twice, so I can answer any question you want.
Shut up, Irony. You belong in a concentration camp. Oh, I forgot. That is not a good thing to say. That was a bad thing to say. Alright, we're back to Napoleon 3. Alright. Okay. Let's see. There's music, it's just really quiet.
Yeah, no copyrighted shit. Let's play some chills.
No Eye of the Spider, I'm guessing.
No, let's see. Let's move on to the next song.
We'll get copy striked.
That's not
I'm using Pastel Halloween's royalty-free music playlist.
Frankenweenie?
No,
Do you remember that movie?
music now.
we're not playing ukulele music.
Do you remember the movie Frankenweenie?
Yeah, dude.
Like,
We're not talking about that right now. We're talking about Napoleon 3. Okay, so...
okay, Napoleon Dynamite. Okay.
No, we're talking about Napoleon 3. So Napoleon 3, France reforms. So now they're a republic. Yeah. Hey, Victor. We're both taking our Euro exams tomorrow. I'm scared for the long essay question. I'm not scared at all, honestly. My teacher told me a story about this kid who didn't know what to do for the long essay question, so they just drew a dinosaur on it, and they still ended up getting a 4, so... Yeah, that's probably what I'm gonna do.
That's fucking good.
Yeah,
He was a good dinosaur.
that's what I'm guessing.
Good dinosaur.
So, yeah, Clemens von Metternich,
Better draw the best.
Italy. So, yeah, France is a republic now, and Napoleon just appeared. And yeah, a lot has happened. We're almost at World War One. We are at 1800s. We got done with Industrial Revolution and all the Enlightenment and all this stuff. And Italy is happening. That's what they're doing. This is way before. But so
What's the name?
red shirts, they're having the time of their life. They're gonna just die. But yeah, Italy, nationalist Italy, growing Austro-Prussian rivalry. So Austria and Prussia, which is Germany, are kind of at odds. They're just not really. What?
I got a history about
What?
how do you feel about Jack ending slavery?
What?
How do you feel about Jack's ending slavery? My dude, how do you feel about Jack's ending slavery? You don't know that?
I'm gonna kick you out of this chat.
No, come on, dude. Okay, for real. Let's get back to Europe.
Yes, let's get back to Euro. I didn't leave Euro to start with. What are you even trying to say?
Don't know about Jack, man. Okay, let's get back to Europe.
Oh my god.
Irony, just watch the video I sent you and be quiet.
Okay. So Austria and Prussia are at a rivalry. Italy is like about to they're sorta going through some stuff. That's gonna lead up into Mussolini in World War II. But right now they're going up and then they're gonna go down and Mussolini's gonna come over and then all this stuff is gonna happen. But we're not at communism yet, so it doesn't matter. Otto von Bismarck. The most important figure in German history between Martin Luther and Adolf Hitler. So he's got a pretty good title. So
Not Kaiser Metal. What is this?
What do you mean?
let's see. What did he do?
Yoda?
Are you watching the Yoda A Date with Yoda VR?
Yeah, that's what I said.
No, I'm not I'll watch it after this.
Prussia is not Germany, but it was involved in the making of Germany. It's a province in the whole Confederation of Germany, and it's going to make Germany. That's why I keep associating it with Germany, so it's not as confusing. Okay.
Gonna make Germany great again.
They had to make Germany. Here, I will turn down the Cheeky Breaky Hard Bass Anthem, and I'm going to turn up desktop audio. Ooh.
Wow,
okay.
Wow, wow. That's what my baby said.
Shut up.
Shut the fuck up.
Nobody asked.
Fuck up. Wow, wow, wow. In my heart, y'all don't know fucking finish some verb. Fuck
I'm
you.
aware. I don't need this. Okay. Alright. Alright. Okay. Bismarck.
Bismuth.
Collect taxes. Got it. Goes against Parliament, and what does he do? Oh my god. Why are you this ad? I hate this ad. We're skipping this ad. Okay. Back to Euro. Okay, I don't care about Otto von Bismarck. I'm just not gonna worry about him.
Sounds pretty hard.
Franco-Prussian War. This how happens. Okay. Let's see. We're just gonna turn this down. Alright, so let's see. Blood and Iron. That's right. That's what he did. He's Blood and Iron.
Like Hellboy, Blood and Iron.
Okay.
That's a good movie. That's a good movie.
Okay.
Okay.
Shut up, Irony. Shut up.
Shut the fuck up.
Is the stream liking this so far, or are they just
No,
like...
they're not even saying anything.
Let me see.
Probably because you eat metal.
Sorry, I'm gonna turn off the music. If you people are gonna suck, I'm just gonna turn this off.
Everybody in the chat
No one
say
can hear
that
the
metal
music.
is a...
I'm aware.
They
It's
can't hear us in the lounge.
Can everybody in the chat just...
they
type
can
that
hear you
metal
now.
is
Your
a-
thing is on. I turned it up. You're about as loud as I am now.
Oh, okay. Well, then everyone in the chat...
Oh my god. Bismarck is not important. We don't care about Bismarck. Let's move on to Franco-Prussian War. Oh fuck, that's Bismarck too. Fucking hell, I don't care about you, Bismarck. You suck.
Oof.
So yeah, they have a war with France.
How long is
What the fuck? Metal.
Metal
Get some
sucks.
goddamn earbuds, phones, whatever.
Oh fuck.
We can hear your echo. Oh my god, this is terrible. This just went downhill.
I
What?
heard your echo, Scorched Leaf, from him.
Yeah, me too. I don't like it.
It's like a...
There
I
we go.
don't
I'm
like
sorry,
it.
my headphones decided to kill them.
Okay.
Well, it's your fault. I don't like
Euro. We're talking about Euro.
Euro? Oh, I like Euros.
Can you shut up?
Fuck you.
You suck. Okay.
I
I don't-
swallow, I don't suck.
Oh my god, can you shut up?
Hey, what's up, Kaka?
So nobody cares about Napoleon III.
Fucking Baltimore?
Yes.
Otto von Bismarck is like a part of making. So William and Bismarck. Can you? I'm trying to speak about.
Irony. Shut up.
Okay,
You
we're
shut
over.
up. You shut up. I'll fucking.
I'll make a diss track on you.
Sidelined by Chills. Irony, did you kick them?
Funny.
Irony,
Did I what?
did you move them?
Did I move what?
Metal and the other bitch.
Did I move what?
Did you move them? Oh my god.
No. No. Oh wait, they left. No, I didn't.
It looks like they got moved.
Oh, they went to video games for some reason.
I don't know. I don't know.
Bring them back.
Okay, so nobody cares about Bismarck. I don't care.
I miss cock and ball torture. He was fun for the 3 seconds that I talked to him.
Oh my god.
Okay, tell me more about Bismarck.
We're not talking about Bismarck. We're talking about the Franco-Prussian War.
Okay.
Oh my god. Austro-Prussian War, Franco-Prussian War. There's so many Prussian wars. Not here for this.
Depression or
You're a
the
whore.
depression. I know that.
Okay.
At least we're
Bismarck.
on mutual terms.
Bismarck unifies Germany and wants to have a patriotic war in France because he's like, yeah, so he wants to have a
We
patriotic.
can still hear you though.
Oh my god. Can you?
Huh?
Okay, so we're talking about the goddamn Franco-Prussian War. Okay, so he wants to have a war with France because,
Because he's stupid.
Arkham, you should have come earlier because we have gone through everything, and I feel so galaxy brain right now. I've gone through this entire thing. I feel galaxy brain right now. I'm so ready. But if I could just get through the Franco-Prussian War, that would be great. Okay. Bismarck. He wants to fight France because he wants to
Shots
unify.
fired.
Oh my god. Shut up.
Okay.
He wants to unify France. No, he doesn't want to unify France. He wants to fight France because he wants to unify Germany. Shut
Can we
up.
talk about the death of Mussolini real quick?
No, that's later.
The French have done many good things. You know, French.
We
fries
aren't
and shit?
talking about France. We're talking about the Franco-Prussian Wars to unite Germany.
Oh yeah, my family's
We're
from
not
Prussia.
talking
Oh my
about-
god.
What about French fries? They'd be good.
I
Yeah, I'm
don't
sorry.
They'd be
care.
good. French fries be good.
Okay, so they
Wait, French fries
Fight.
are from Belgium, right?
and then he wants to. So Bismarck fights France because he wants to unite Germany in a nationalism, and
National.
once France loses, he captures Napoleon III. Shut up. He captures Napoleon III, and then he's like, okay, France, you're gonna have to pay a lot to get him back. And they're like, okay. And now they're upset.
I'm like, okay.
Mm,
Bro, this ignorance of German history is really fucking triggering. That's what Kaiser just said.
oh my god.
Hey Scorchel, how are you liking this voice?
I really...
Oh,
You're all banned after this, I swear to god.
Hey, I didn't do anything. No, remember, I am the helpful one here.
Oh my god.
look, it's all.
What
Meryl's
AP
fault
test did
for
you take
condoning.
yesterday, Cacophony? I just want out.
That Scorchly, are you gonna ban us if you fail?
Scorchel isn't that dumb, right?
No, Scorchly isn't that dumb. Maybe.
She's dumb enough to keep me around, though.
We're talking about the Homestead Act now. We're talking about the Homestead Act. Give Western land to settlers.
Okay, Scorsley, we're not gonna say any more dumb shit.
Okay. We're talking about the Homestead Act. Ended slavery.
Oh,
Reinforce the
yucky,
concept of free labor. So that's happening.
Happening.
There we go. Modernization of Russia. So Russia has some great reforms. So if we're going to clarify what we just went over, the Franco-Prussian War was when Otto von Bismarck wanted to unite Germany, so he staged this war against France to unite everyone under nationalism. And then they all got together, and then he made France pay a bunch, and then France was sad. And
Oh wait.
So now-
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Kaiser said that they can't hear us on stream.
when?
Kaiser said that he can't hear us on stream. Like nobody.
In chat?
Yeah, in
When?
Nerds.
To be fair,
Just
if she
said.
did ban
Okay.
us upon failing, we wouldn't be banned until July.
He said we're like a whisper in the background.
I cannot. Okay, I'm just gonna put mine up to all the way. I'm gonna put yours up to halfway. It says that it's picking up. It shouldn't.
Maybe it's lying.
AP Environmental. Oh, that's rough. Whatever. Can you people stop playing fucking
I'm not doing it.
Sidelined by Chills?
Ain't it funny?
I did not mean to click on my soundboard. I'm sorry.
Oh my god. Okay, whatever.
Fun.
This is.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Shut up! We're doing Russia. Crimean War.
Ooh, Russia.
Crimean War. Whatever. Crimean War.
Metal, shut up. I love you.
Alright, so
Good game.
Germany is forming, and now the
Ooh.
whole entire balance of power that Metternich was setting up earlier is starting to fall apart, and this is going to lead into World War I. So Germany is formed, and that's completely ruining Metternich's idea of the Confederation of Germany, which was pretty weak, and now this balance of power that they set up in Europe is falling apart. Russia is not modern. They're absolutist, and they're just having a bad time. And then they get into the Crimean War, and then they lose really badly, and they're like, we need to modernize. So now,
Stop German names.
what?
Kaiser told you to stop pronouncing German names.
I don't
You're
care.
Like,
I don't care. We've been pronouncing names of every single type of person wrong today. It doesn't matter. We're not going to stop
Say
and
Abraham
remember how to
Lincoln.
pronounce them.
Abraham Lincoln.
Can you
Abram.
stop?
Abram.
Whatever.
Ain't it funny?
Ain't it funny?
Okay. Alexander II abolishes serfdom in, what's it called? Germany. No, not Germany. This is the
Germany.
opposite of what it was. It was Russia.
Germs a many.
Can you shut up? Okay.
Look, I'm not. It's not.
It's
Sorry.
8 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock. How
It's
many
8 o'clock
hours
for
is
me.
it until the test? Okay, so we've got 8 o'clock, 4 hours it's midnight, and then it starts at 11. Okay, so we've got 15 hours until the test.
Oh my god. How'd you do math that quick, my dude?
With magic.
Magic.
Magical
God.
magic powers.
Magical.
Having a
collector.
stroke.
You should be
How
proud.
are you?
People don't usually have strokes until they're like 50.
I didn't
This is
ask.
little-
Must be
usually have
aging really
drugs and
badly because of us.
Imagine uploading for the first time in 6 months.
What a
What?
god.
I don't know.
What are you talking about?
Nothing
I don't know what
important.
I'm talking-
Nothing important.
Yeah, it's nothing important. Don't
Yeah, it's
don't
nothing
question
important. There's
That's
Yeah,
just
you-
nothing we
guys
say is important.
it. You don't want to know. You don't want to know.
I'm just
Unless
going
it
to.
pertains to your AP test, I guess.
Russia is reforming.
Yay!
Alexander II. So they're starting to modernize
Alexander
Russia after they
Hamilton.
lost. And they abolished serfdom. And a bunch of peasants are getting up. And they're like, cool. And,
Hey man.
they were Alexander II was kind of like only half chubbed, and he didn't really do that much, but he met them halfway, and it's the first bit of it.
Hey,
So
Scorchley, you like Hamilton?
I don't like Hamilton. Can you leave?
Fuck you.
Right,
Okay.
So
Continue
okay.
about Alexander the Inferior.
So
Alexander
railroads
Hamilton.
enable Russia. Okay, so now they're getting impacted by the Industrial Revolution, and there's war urban stuff, industrial suburbs, and this whole entire increase of factories and stuff is going to increase the spread of Marxism and communism in Russia. So the Marxist principle is going to start to take hold around this time because they're modernizing and stuff isn't getting better for the serfs. So there he is, Russian Revolution of 1905. Bloody Sunday, this all happens. I know this stuff. I know the Russian Revolution like the back of my hand. Not really, but I know it pretty well. The October Manifesto, this all happens.
Yeah.
Basically, everyone's like, we don't like that anymore. Duma.
Leica?
I'm not gonna talk to you. So
You got an accent.
they're hanging out, and so Russia's kind of trying to deal with it. They have the Duma, and then everything starts to
The Doom
happen,
guy.
and then
Hey, Irene,
Russia
how about
is
you
starting to-
go into the video games chat?
what?
Why?
Because I'm gonna go sing Sidelines.
Oh my god!
No, I don't want to. Like, just because you told me that, I'm deliberately not joining that chat now.
How about you follow what I say instead?
How
Yeah, let's
about
do that.
you? How about you go fuck yourself?
Hey,
Are you implying that I wouldn't?
Force him into the video games thing and keep him there.
The only person I would fuck is me.
Ooh.
Reform
How
and
about-
readjustment in the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman
The
Empire
Ottoman-
is
isn't that
going
like a
to
thing
die.
That you keep by the couch?
Nobody likes the Ottoman
Yeah, no
Empire,
shit.
and
No
they
one
get
remembers the
broken up,
Empire.
and that's going to have to
Yeah.
start
We
with
remember
the
them for their beautiful furniture.
for the-
Yeah, they had good
That's
furniture.
it.
You could kick your feet up on it and shit. Hell yeah.
What are you
Put
talking
some
about?
coffee on it.
Ottomans.
Furniture.
We're not talking about Ottomans.
Yeah, we are.
We're
Yeah, you
talking
did.
about
An
the
empire.
Ottoman
You
Empire
clearly
breaking up.
They
said-
built an empire off of furniture. They are gods.
Can you like?
Yeah.
We're talking about. Okay, that's just like.
Scorchly, I imagine you're just gonna get so mad that you just rip up that little packet that you
Alright,
have.
we need to
I don't
stop
have a
messing
packet.
with
I have a
her,
textbook.
them. We need to stop messing around
You're gonna-
and actually help them study. I can't do anything of that measure because I'm a
Them.
whole ass grade behind y'all. So
What do you
don't
mean?
sound a whole
them?
ass grade behind us.
well, I'm not taking AP Euro though.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm not
me.
either.
I'm taking AP World.
AP World.
Same.
Imagine
I'm
taking
taking
AP
AP.
World. I'm
I'm
pretty
taking
sure AP
AP
World
World.
has a lot of this
I
stuff.
don't want.
When does your AP World go from? Like around what time period? Metal, shut up.
No, you
We're
shut
working
up. I'm
on.
taking-
World
Oh my god,
War
Irony!
II.
Shut the fuck up!
No, I'm taking
Shut
AP
up!
lunch. That's what I'm taking.
Shut up!
You shut up. You shut up.
Somebody
You
is
shut up. I will
talking.
not take this. I will not.
What do
I'm
you
talking
mean?
to.
I mean, I'm not talking anymore.
No,
I'd rather
keep
talk,
talking. Talk. Tell me what you were trying
Okay,
to
you
say before
talk.
everyone.
Alright.
Talk.
but We are
Shut
talking.
up, Scorchley. He's trying to talk. The man's trying to talk, Scorchley.
I'm
Alright,
literally going
yeah.
to ban you.
Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it.
Ban metal.
Lord,
Ban
this
him.
is
taking-
great.
I'll give you $5.
Look, I'm
I'm going to
taking
ban
with
you
me.
for $5.
For $5,
Watch
ban
that.
him.
I'll
For
raise
10.
you on
Ban-
that.
So
Okay,
I'm
bet.
going
10,
to
$10,
open
$10,
Streamlabs.
$10. Ban
You know,
him.
you can just like mute him on
Donation
Discord.
amount 500. No, not 500. Holy fuck, that was almost bad.
I'll give you 10 if you ban.
5
Metal.
USD. Donation message.
Scorchly, you wanted to know what we were going over in AP World right now.
Yes. Yes.
All right. What we are going over right now is World War II.
Okay.
It's basically the last thing of the year because
Yeah.
guess what? Our AP test is next Thursday. So that's
Cool.
nice.
Mine is tomorrow. But yeah.
I took an AP test yesterday too. That was
Why are you
fun.
What
telling
was
the
that
lesson
for?
if you're not actually studying?
Maybe because I'm a complete fucking dumbass. That might be it.
What was
Yeah.
your last? What was your other AP?
The one
test?
yesterday was apes.
Oh.
That's environmental sciences.
Yeah. Okay, I remember that now. All right.
I took my last. I
Yeah, I
took
got
my
the worst
last
teacher in the
test
school for it, so that was
yesterday.
fun.
Okay. So yeah, I'm taking just AP Euro this year. Next year I'm taking AP Psych, AP Comparative Government, AP what is it? Fuck. AP Psych, AP
whatever it
Comparative
is.
Government, AP Stats, AP Bio, and AP Lang.
Yeah. I'm taking stat this year, though.
Stats
Wow,
is...
Hey, Kaka.
you just got r/whooshed.
Hey,
Whoosh
hey,
means
Kaka.
you didn't get the joke
Kaka.
as sound made.
Okay.
R/I have read it, though.
And the joke
Do you
whooshes
have a-
in
do
your
you-
head. Bet you're
do
too
you-
stupid to get it, idiot.
Oh,
Do you have a
Snapples.
teacher that's
Stop
also a
crafting, took me
coach?
a full 3 minutes.
I don't
You
have
should
a
be-
teacher that's also a coach right now.
I was asking
No.
Kaka.
I think that's because you failed. I outsmarted you, nitwit.
Oh,
In conclusion-
Snapples. He certainly told you.
Exactly.
exactly.
In conclusion, I am posting this to the community known as r/whoosh to claim my internet points in your embarrassment. Imbecile. The Germans refer to this action as, I'm not gonna say that, which means harm joy. Wow, another reference pointing to you. I am going to
Snap.
seize this conversation, for I do not converse with the simple-minded persons.
Scorchly, can you
This is
ban
so
Metal for watching
not
JoJo?
epic. Someone called Ben Shapiro to justify me.
Yeah, ban Metal for
What are we
watching
doing to
No,
this
I'm
guy?
donating
Bizarre Adventure.
$5 to ban you.
Well, you watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, so that's
yeah,
already
you haven't, so that's a problem.
that's already a reason for you to be banned for watching it.
No, it's
Oh my
already
Forcing
a reason for
Scorchley
you
to
not
watch
be
it.
watching JoJo's.
Yeah, Scorchly, just ban him so you don't have to hear about JoJo anymore.
When have I ever said anything about JoJo's besides specifically harassing her?
Specifically harassing her.
Shut the fuck up.
Make me.
Okay.
How about we flip a
Okay.
coin?
We're talking about Euro.
Okay.
Cacophony.
when?
Shut up. Cacophony. Do you have an AP Euro course at your school, or is it just?
I believe that's junior year thing. I'm a sophomore right now, so it'll
Oh,
probably be
I'm a
next year.
sophomore too, so.
Ooh.
That's a,
I'm a
Yeah,
freshman.
like Geo was last year for us. Worlds this year. It's a year.
Last year was
So-
American history for us. This year is.
Now, now y'all
Euro.
making me feel young because I'm a freshman.
I see.
You're a freshman.
No,
Yeah.
I'm a
It might be
sophomore.
different depending where you live, because sometimes you're like
I'm over here in
One,
Florida,
you're
so
like
it's
the same
probably different.
age,
Yeah,
but
we can't-
for some reason you go up a grade.
Yeah.
Also,
Um,
that's cool. I didn't know you were a sophomore, so that's nice.
we
Kaka,
have.
I'm from Georgia, so we should be enemies.
So yeah, you have, but yeah, you'll probably learn a lot of, because we're going over World War I and World War II soon as well. So you're probably going to have a lot of crossover with Hero.
Wait, I have a
Sweet.
question.
That'll make everything a lot easier.
Yeah.
Scorchly.
What?
I have
Hey, you
a
actually
question
pronounced
from
your
my
name right.
friend. Is it possible to study algebra?
No.
Well, I mean,
Exactly.
like, there you could go over like factoring and shit. You can go over what a log is. You can do log questions.
Factor my ass.
Yeah, factoring my ass. Factoring is boring.
Factoring is cathartic.
Look,
But
my
we are talking
grandma
about
was
factoring right
cathartic.
now. We're talking about the German Empire. The Reichstag.
Wait, and
He remembers
I think
about
my-
the German Empire.
I think my grandma was cathartic. She had like
No,
some
I'm gonna go
long-winded
AFK.
hair.
That's not what
Before I get myself
cathartic
banned.
means.
Yes, it is.
Kulturkampf. Culture struggle. Okay, so Bismarck doesn't like the Catholic Church and doesn't like Parliament. He wants to be an empire. Generally voted for the center. German Social Democratic Party. So that's gonna happen. But anyway, yeah, Germany is a thing now. Republican France.
Somebody.
Okay, so France is still Republican now. This is not
Ew.
important. Great Britain, Northern Ireland, not important. Austro-Hungarian Empire. Okay, that's kind of important, but not really. They don't become important until World War One.
You know what they should teach in Euro?
What?
The history of the Sonic movie.
What's next? Marxism. There we go.
Because I like
Socialism,
Mark Zuckerberg.
unions, and revisionism. All this stuff is happening. So Marx and Friedrich Engels sort of came up, and they were like, yeah, we've got this idea. And then a bunch of other people said, hey, I like that. And then they added stuff to it. And there was this one dude who had this really weird... Oh, there was Robert Owen. And then there was this other guy that was like... what was his name? I forget. I forget his name, but he was
Isaac
really
just said
fun.
an offensive slur.
I like him. What?
Nothing.
Revisionism was when people tried to change the Marxist doctrine according to what they needed. This is the West in the world. Is this important? Probably not. Okay, so the West, opening of China. Okay, so this is just trade stuff. That's going to be Japan and the United States. That's going to lead into World War One. What do they do?
Oh God.
Okay. So they don't really like United States or Westerners didn't really use Japan. Japan was just sort of hanging around. And then there was the global migration. Not really important. Asian immigration. Okay, Asian immigration was when a bunch of people started coming to like United States and everything because they wanted work. And they would work on railroads and stuff and everything. They were a big part of the
Why are
economy.
you just like rushing through this?
It's not that important. It's just talking about stuff before World War One. It's just general concepts. New imperialism. So all this stuff is happening. Can
Continue.
you stop?
Stop what?
Just being alive.
Okay. Where's my
Orientalism.
phone at?
All this stuff is just sort of happening in the background while all this is happening. So all
I'll
this
hang
stuff. Oh
myself.
my god. Ooh, War and Revolution. 1914 to 1919. There he is. World War One. This fella.
Oh, there he is. So cute.
Okay. So finally, we're at something important. 25.
Smash or pass?
War and
Smash
Revolution.
or pass? World War One.
Can you stop? Alright, 1914 to 1919. In the summer of 1914, the nations of Europe went willingly to war. They believed they had no other choice. Both peoples and governments confidently expected a short war leading to a decisive victory and thought that European society would be able to go on as before. These expectations were totally mistaken. The First World War was long, indecisive, and tremendously destructive. To the shell-shocked generation of survivors, it was known simply as the Great War because of its unprecedented scope and intensity. From today's perspective, it is clear that the First World War was closely connected to the ideals and developments of the previous century. Industrialization, which promised a rising standard of living, now produced horrendous weapons that killed and maimed millions. Imperialism, which promised to civilize those Europeans considered savages, now led to intractable and international conflicts. Nationalism, which promised to bring compatriots together in a harmonious nation-state, now encouraged hateful prejudice and chauvinism. The extraordinary violence of the World War shook the confidence in such 19th century certainties to its core. The war would also have an enormous impact on the century that followed. The need to provide extensive supplies and countless soldiers for the war effort created mass suffering, encouraged the rise of the bureaucratic state, and brought women in increasing numbers to the workplace. Millions were killed or wounded at the front, and millions more grieved these losses. Grand states collapsed. The Russian, Austro-Hungarian, and Ottoman empires passed into history. The trauma of war contributed to the rise of extremist politics in the Russian Revolution of 1917, so that's Russian Revolution 2. The Bolsheviks established a radical communist regime, and the totalitarian fascist movements gained popularity across Europe in the post-war decades. Explaining the war's causes and consequences remains one of the great challenges for historians in modern Europe. Road to war, bitches. Growing international conflict.
Where's Metal?
He left.
Oh, I didn't even know.
Or he's not left. He's there.
He's still in the
He's there, but
chat,
he's not
though.
doing anything.
Oh, too bad.
Okay. So, Road to
Wanted to
War.
ask his opinion on Hulk dabbing.
So, before
Hey,
all this...
Hulk dab?
Shut up. Before the actual war, a bunch of alliances are being formed. And that's basically because... First of all, Germany wants to get cozy buddy up with people, and then there are all these other empires that are falling and crumbling apart and then coming back together and being
Like
tight
Hulk
buds. And then, let's see, Franco-Prussian War and the unification of Germany. So yeah, unification of Germany, and then they form the Triple Alliance with France and Russia, or no, that's different. Austria, Germany, and Italy. That's a triple alliance. They were up against the dual alliance of Russia and France, and they all sort of clashed.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to ask, how long is this stream gonna be?
I don't know. I have World War I now,
Are
and
you,
then
like,
World War II.
Do you go
going
to the
through,
Korean
the whole
War?
book?
We talk about the Korean War briefly, but I'm pretty sure that's only in
Can
the
you
Cold War stuff.
Can you skip to 9/11?
No, we're not talking about 9/11. 9/11
remember
is
when-
not in this.
You remember? I thought you were about to say 9/11 didn't happen.
9/11 isn't
Everyone-
real.
It's an inside
fuck
job.
did you
that Hulk
mean?
does.
In
They used-
Israel.
They used no, it's not. They used holograms. Obviously, it was CGI. They got Michael
CGI.
Bay to do the CGI.
CGI? Man, I wish we can get that in movies that's from today.
CGI
Oh, yeah.
World War II.
Yeah, the Cold War didn't even happen.
The Cold War was a hologram.
How did you
What?
know?
Because I'm
They're on
smart
to
like
us.
that.
Alright,
God.
George, they're on to us.
okay. So let's see. So there's all these
Speaking of
alliances
9/11. forming.
What do you
You
want?
remember when Butch Hartman tweeted out about like 9/11? He tweeted the Twin Towers like collapsing and shit. Classic Butch moment. Why'd everybody just go silent?
Because you suck.
Cause what?
Because you
'Cause-
suck.
You're not the best person here.
Okay,
I
so...
thought you said I. Look, metal.
Okay, so Germany in this time is sort of like identifying with the English because there's this rising sense of ethnic identity from
Entitlement.
Shut up. There's this rising sense of identity that believes that Germanic and Anglo-Saxon people are
Okay, I'm
like
making this
related
seem
and the
interesting.
same. So Germany wants to be in alliance with England, but England's kind of like, nah, we're not feeling that. But still, they're sort of like interdependent on each other economically, so that's going to be a thing that happens post-war. Anglo-Russian agreement. That happens. The Triple Entente, that is the alliance between Britain, Russia, and France. So now there's the Triple Alliance and the Triple Entente. So that's going to be the precursor for the alliances of World War One. 1914, there's a lot of diplomatic rivalries, a lot of the great powers. There isn't any like big widespread war since the Franco-Prussian War, and so nationalism is becoming a big thing in the Balkans especially. So now that like the Austrian Empire and the Ottoman Empire is sort of like falling apart, the Balkans want to be nationalists and they want to have their own identity. So they're going to. That's especially Serbia. Serbia is super important because that's going to come to the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and that's going to start this whole entire spiraling effect with Serbia and Germany and Russia and all this stuff, and it's going to be a domino effect that gets everybody declaring war on each other. Okay.
Did you say Morbius?
What?
Did you say Morbius?
I cannot even hear you. First Balkan War. So they're attacking the Ottoman Empire, and then they quarrel with Bulgaria, and then Bulgaria attacks them back. So that's all the things that happen. But it's just establishing the fact that the Balkans are really having a rough time.
I'm gonna go.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna come back later if y'all are on like a little late.
Shouldn't be on that much later.
Okay. Good luck with your test.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Die in a fucking ditch, Metal. I love you. Yeah.
Okay. The Schlieffen Plan. So that's Germany is planning to go and get France and then go through Belgium. And that's going to start. So now everybody's declaring war on each other. And then Germany's like, okay, I'm going to get up and then I'm going to go through France and then. So they're thinking on a two-front war. And then they're going to. So they're going to go through Belgium, neutral Belgium, then they're going to get to France, and then they're going to turn to Russia. So they're going to try and conquer as much as they can and invade as much as they can. So they invade Belgium on August 3rd. And then Britain declares war on Germany. So, so first they go into that. And then now everybody is... So yeah. Sorry, everybody is going to go to war soon. Oh, alright. Everyone's going to war. So first they go through Belgium, and then Britain declares war, I think. Because somebody's allied with Belgium. So now this goes from being the Austro-Serbian War to the European-wide conflict. And, yeah. So... this is also the first time the concept of total war starts happening. So, like, everybody is ganging together, and they're all... so it's basically just mobilizing the entire country for war, managing all your resources and stuff, all this stuff. And then we don't need to know battles, so at least I hope so. Trench warfare is a thing. We know a lot about trench warfare. And all this stuff. Battle of Gallipoli. And then, let's see, where does America get involved? America gets involved. They just sort of happen. Earlier on, they were benefiting from the war, but now they're involved in it, and that's all happening. And then while this is all happening, the Russian Revolution is also happening. So, Russian Revolution 2. There was a Russian Revolution earlier that established a constitutional monarchy, but now Russian Revolution 2 is a thing. So all the Bolsheviks are getting up and they're saying, okay, we're going to get rid of Russia. We're going to go by Marxist doctrine and we're going to make a new government. So the February Revolution, they form the Petrograd Soviet, they sort of get up, stand up. Lenin, he's the guy. Lenin, the Bolshevik Revolution. So, well, first is the February Revolution and the Provisional Government. Then is Lenin and the Bolshevik Revolution. You just need to know that the Tsars are gone and they're being replaced by the Bolsheviks. And that's going to come eventually. So Lenin has the Bolsheviks, and then Trotsky comes in, Leon Trotsky. So they're at Petrograd. Some of this stuff happens. Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. And they're like, I can't say that. It's supposed to be Russian. But, so yeah, Russian sort of pulls out from the war while they're doing all this. And, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so Russia pulls out of World War I because they're having their revolution, and then there's the Russian Civil War, which is the White Army and the Red Army, and basically nobody can agree on everything, and that's all happening. War communism. That's again with Total War stuff. And now we are at the end of the Russian Revolution, and we're getting to the end of the war. So yeah. Germany is kind of sad. Russia is pretty much defeated. And, let's see, how does it go on? Then there is this mutiny in Germany. Nobody's happy. Revolution in Austria, Hungary, and Germany happens. Oh. Hurry up. Sorry, I was really thirsty. Okay, so, let's see. Revolution in Austria, Hungary, and Germany. So all these fellas are here. And then this is all happening. And then, so now, basically, the war is over. The war went on for a little while. Now it's over. And that was happening. So the Treaty of Versailles. Now the war is over and they're all going to the Treaty of Versailles, which is Woodrow Wilson sets up his 14 points, which is calling for freedom of commerce, reduction in arms, and free trade, and establishment of the League of Nations, which is his idealistic idea of all the nations together in harmony. Also, he wanted national self-determination, so that's stuff like the Serbian outbreaks, all the Serbs that were getting mad and getting up. So, like, that wouldn't happen again. So, yeah, now, and they also put very heavy reparations on Germany, and that's going to become really important when we get a little bit later on, because Germany is not going to be happy that they have all this financial responsibility for this war that they didn't feel like they were responsible for. And so they're going to be heavily in debt. And remember how way earlier I said France had the stakes in the Rhineland, dating back to Napoleon, dating back to all this stuff before then. So France is still in the German Rhineland, and that's going to become very important when we get to World War II, because this is all tying in to the idea that Germany has to pay these severe reparations. And it's all basically connected, and it's all going to spiral out of control. So then they form the big three, which is United States, Britain, and France, are all formed after this Treaty of Versailles. And, yeah, basically everybody else was excluded. They decided the fate of everybody else. Germany is not going to be happy about that. But, yeah. The League of Nations happened, and Also, stuff is settled in the Middle East. There's this entire idea that Jewish people are going to be sent to Jerusalem and Palestine, I think. So basically, they're like, we don't want the Jews, we're going to send them there. And that's this entire other thing that happens. And then also France, Britain, and the United States start to try and control areas in there for oil and other things. So now they're basically dividing up the Middle East and using it for their own goals. And that is what happens with the end of World War One. The Age of Anxiety. Cool. So, 26. Age of Anxiety. When Allied diplomats met in Paris in early 1919 with their optimistic plans for building a lasting peace, most people looked forward to happier times. After the terrible trauma of total war, they hoped that life would return to normal and would make sense in familiar pre-war terms of peace, prosperity, and progress. Their hopes were in vain. World War I and the Russian Revolution had mangled too many things beyond repair. Great numbers of people felt themselves increasingly adrift in an age of anxiety and continual change. Late 19th century thinkers had already called attention to the pessimism, uncertainty, and irrationalism that seemed to accompany modern life. By 1900, radical developments in philosophy and the sciences had substantiated and popularized such ideas. The modernist movement had begun its sweep through literature, music, and the arts, as the avant-garde innovators rejected old cultural forms and began to experiment with new ones. Radical innovations in art and the sciences dominated Western culture in the 1920s and 1930s and remained influential after World War II. Growing consumer society, the new media of radio and film. What was that? That sounded interesting. Oh, Alpha J. The only thing that matters is that Alpha J will take over Europe. Thank you. That was such a nice donation. I support that. Thank you. I'm very happy about that. Oh, that makes me really happy. Okay. Let's see. The modernist movement. Alright, where were we? Even as modern science, art, and culture challenged received wisdoms of all kinds, international relations spiraled into crisis. Despite some progress in the mid-1920s, political stability remained short-lived, and the Great Depression that began in 1929 cast millions into poverty and shocked the quo. Democratic liberalism was besieged by the rise of authoritarian and fascist governments, and another world conflict seemed imminent. In the early 1920s, the French poet and critic Paul Valéry described this widespread impression of darkness where almost all the affairs of men remained in terrible uncertainty. We think of what has disappeared, and we are almost destroyed by what has been destroyed. We do not know what will be born, and we fear the future, not without reason. Valéry's words captured the gloom and foreboding that dominated the decades between the wars. Cool. Certainty and modern thought. Alright, so now we're getting into modern philosophy, so that's an entire thing. Ooh, Friedrich Nietzsche. So yeah, this was getting into the idea of psychology, so that's a thing that didn't exist really. And now, well, it did exist, but it wasn't that good. But yeah, Nietzsche, and then he's talking about morals, and then this morals. And what did he say? He said that logical positivism argued what we know about the human life must be based on rational facts and direct observation. So that's basically saying that theology and traditional philosophy are meaningless because all ideas... These ideas that are established as staples can be doubted and they cannot be proven by any, they can't be proved by direct observation. So that's this idea that happens. Let's see. What else? So, who is going to come? Existentialism. Existentialism is another logical positivism versus existentialism. That's like existentialism, where does it say? Stresses the meaninglessness of existence and importance of the individual in searching for moral values in an uncertain world. So that's individualism. That's like your interpretation, and that's also the idea that nothing matters, nothing is important. And now we are getting to... Oh my god, who is that?
It's me taking a piss.
Can you not I was on a roll.
Irony, I swear to God, I've been keeping quiet this whole time, and then you.
He's been keeping quiet.
Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry, interrupted. Continue.
Nobody asked for this. Okay.
Yeah.
French existentialist Jean-Paul Sartre. Existence precedes essence. Christianity gets a revival. New physics. Freudian psychology. I don't like Sigmund Freud, but whatever. Einstein. Theory of special relativity. New artistic movements. Architecture. Bauhaus. Dadaism becomes a thing. Surrealism becomes a thing. They're really interested in psychology, and they're really interested in weird shit. And then, let's see. All this stuff is happening. Consumer society emerges. Modern music, mass culture, appeal of cinema, all this stuff starts to become a big thing. Radio, that's a big thing. TV's gonna come eventually.
What the fuck is wrong with you, Mike?
Oh my god. Germany and the Western powers. Search for peace and political stability. So yeah, Germany is not happy with the Treaty of Versailles. They're having a really bad time with it because it's basically draining all their money and making them feel absolutely useless and blaming them for war. So they have this huge post-war inflation where the value of their money goes down so much that it's literally worthless. And there's like 30 million or something, like something 100 million German marks is equivalent to $1. And there's money everywhere. There's money in the streets. There's so much money being printed. And there's just so much inflation. And the economy is awful. So, Gustav Stresemann. Yeah. So, I don't know. He just did something. But Germany gets help from the Dawes Plan, which is American bankers. Their plan is to pump money into Germany so that it's going to go back to France, that's going to go back to America. So basically it's a pyramid scheme, or not a pyramid scheme, a Ponzi scheme, where everybody is just... all the money is coming back to the United States. They're putting the money in, and then they're just getting it directly back. That's their goal. So it's a Ponzi scheme. And they sort of help Germany, but it's going to be a while. And then the Great Depression hits. So everybody is upset now. There's an economic crisis, mass unemployment, the stock market's crashed, now everybody's sad. And then Herbert Hoover, he is here. He just failed miserably throughout this entire endeavor. I was looking at the wrong thing. Franklin Delano Roosevelt comes in, and then he enacts a New Deal to try and put everything back together. And then Britain and France are having a tough time. So yeah, everybody's sad. Roosevelt comes in and he's trying to fix it. And now we are done here. And we are moving on to dictatorships and World War II. So we are almost done. Oh my god. Okay. Dictatorships and the Second World War. The intense wave of artistic and cultural innovation in the 1920s and 1930s, which shook the foundations of Western thought, was paralleled by radical developments in the realm of politics. In the Age of Anxiety, communist and fascist states undertook determined assaults on democratic government and individual rights across Europe. On the eve of the Second World War, popularly elected governments survived only in Great Britain, France, Czechoslovakia, the Low Countries, Scandinavia, and Switzerland. Totalitarian regimes in the Communist Soviet Union and Fascist Italy and Germany practiced a ruthless and dynamic tyranny. Their attempts to revolutionize state and society went far beyond traditional forms of conservative authoritarianism. Where was I? There we go. Communist and fascist states ruled with unprecedented severity. They promised to greatly improve the lives of ordinary citizens and intervened radically in those lives in pursuit of utopian schemes of social engineering. Their drive for territorial expansion threatened neighboring nations. The human cost of these policies were appalling. Millions died as Stalin forced communism on the Soviet Union in the 1930s. Attempts to build a racially pure new order in Europe by Hitler's Nazi Germany led to the deaths of tens of millions and more in World War II. In World War II and the Holocaust, a scale of destruction far beyond that of World War I. Such brutalities may seem a thing of the distant past that can't happen again, yet horrible atrocities in Rwanda, Bosnia, and Sudan show that they continue to plague the world in our time. It remains vital that we understand Europe's era of overwhelming violence in order to guard the possibility of its recurrence in the future. There's a world of wisdom from my textbook. Okay. Conservative authoritarianism and radical totalitarianism. Okay, so communism and fascism start to rise up, especially in Germany. So Hitler. There's Hitler. Well, Mussolini is first. Fascism is Mussolini and Hitler. New economic policy starts in the USSR in 1921. And then 1922, Mussolini gains power in Italy. So new economic policy is basically the whole entire communist thing is trying to regulate their economy and get back on their feet. Communists and fascists differed. Alright, so fascists promised to improve the lives of ordinary workers. They intervened in the economy. They did not try to level class differences and nationalize private property. Instead, they presented a vision of community bound together by nationalism. So communism is regulating all of the economy, and fascism is identifying the entire state under an idea of nationalism. Fascists embraced the communists sought to build a new world around the destruction of class differences. Fascists typically sought to build a new national community grounded in racial homogeny. So communism wants to make everybody equal and wants to view everyone in the same legal standing and not have any labels and stuff, but fascism wants to build a state based on racial homogeny and get rid of all the people who are not racially homogenous. So eugenics, pseudoscience that maintains selective breeding of human beings, could improve the general characteristics of a national population. Okay, so these ideas ultimately lead to the Holocaust. Stalin, Soviet Union. So Lenin dies, and they're sort of having this problem. Lenin replaces war communism from the Russian Civil War with a new economic policy. And then he dies, and Stalin replaces him. So the contenders for the whole entire way that the Russian government worked at this point was weird. It was like a bunch of people just sort of... Well, you had the guy who was on top, and then you had a bunch of other people, and there were a bunch of houses, and they were like all competing. But anyway, there are two major contenders, and that is Leon Trotsky and Joseph Stalin. And Trotsky is an inspiring person who doesn't speak. Stalin isn't bad at speaking, and he is better to... He is more of a revisionist of Marxism. So instead of following Marxism by the book and trying to replicate it exactly like a lot of ones before him were going, he interprets the doctrine of Marxism to the Russian situation. And also, he is less interested with inspiring a communist revolution. He doesn't view what he's doing as promoting the idea of communism. He's viewing it solely in Russia. While Lenin wanted to encourage the spread of the communism everywhere and have everybody be communist and everybody be a utopia, Stalin didn't think that was possible or a good goal. So his entire thing was to build Russia up and get it into power. He was a Russian nationalist. He just wanted to get as much power for Russia as possible. So that happened. And now he is, yeah.
Here, I'll be back.
Alright, fella. So Stalin's willingness to break with the NEP and build socialism at home appealed to people. So he got rid of Lenin's economic policy of the NEP, which was basically adopting capitalist ideals in order to kickstart the communist economy. But yeah, so Stalin wins over Trotsky, and then he comes into power. And then he gets out his 5-year plans, which are economic things that organize collectivize agriculture, and then he wants to get rid of the kulaks, who are land-owning peasant farmers. So there are land-owning peasant farmers in Germany called kulaks, and Stalin doesn't like them very much because he's worried that they're going to revolt when it all comes down to it. Stalin is very paranoid. He took away all their land and livestock, and then in order to make sure that they didn't revolt, he instigated this entire thing where he starved them all, and he cut off their resources. They burned their own fields, and then he cut off financial and personal aid for them. And so there was a bunch of starvation, a bunch of atrocities there, and a bunch of people, the kulaks, died. So yeah, now
Of course, no one cared, because although it was technically genocide, it wasn't targeted at anyone specific.
well, I mean,
Yeah.
people still care about it. It's a big thing.
Like, do you think Thanos did anything wrong? It's basically like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course Thanos did nothing wrong.
Okay, we're not talking about whether the starving of the kulaks was bad.
Yeah, it was, if Thanos wanted it, then it was alright.
Mussolini and fascism in Italy. So,
Right.
yeah, Mussolini is this Italian guy, and he was a member of the Socialist Party, but they kicked him out for not being socialist enough. And he was really mad, so he formed his own party. And with the help of his band of gangsters, his private militia, the Black Shirts, this was violence. They used violence to get their way, and they sort of bullied their way up to the top. So then they're a mass movement now. They push socialism out. They're very much against socialism. And Mussolini manages to get high enough to get himself appointed to the Prime Minister of Italy. So now Mussolini is the Prime Minister of Italy, and he is fascist. The first big fascist. Regime in action. So Lateran Agreement. Okay, so Mussolini has Italy. He comes with the Lateran Agreement. That's church stuff. It's not that important. Recognizes the Vatican as an independent state and gives some finances. So Mussolini doesn't get to establish complete totalitarian control because he's a people pleaser. He likes pleasing the church. He likes pleasing wealthy businessmen and businesses. He likes pleasing all of these people, so he never is completely totalitarian. But yeah, that is the beginning of fascism in Italy. And then then there's Hitler in Germany. So National Socialism. So it's time for Hitler.
Yay.
So fun fact about Hitler, he was actually Austrian. And if you remember, Austria and Prussia / Germany have a bit of a thing going on between them. They're kind of back and forth, not very good friends. But yeah, so he is Austrian. His father was an Austrian, but he ended up adopting German nationalism, partially despite his father and partially just because. He became a part of these Austro-German nationalists who viewed Germany as completely superior, was really mad at the rest of the world, especially the West, Britain, America, for levying all of these insane reparations on them and making them pay a bunch for World War One. And they're really mad about that. And then in order to solve their individual problems, they blame all their issues on the Jews. So that happens. And then
On my people.
he is interested. So Hitler is interested in eugenics. He's interested in social Darwinism and the superiority of the Germanic race. Fuck.
The German race.
So he is super angry at Jewish people and Marxists. So then he forms the German Workers' Party, and then they sort of rise up, but then they don't. They're just not that important at that point. Then he gets sent to jail, and then he writes Mein Kampf, and then he gets out of jail, and then he gets appointed chancellor by President Hindenburg eventually. So
Should have brought it in there.
Nazis pushed through the Reichstag and the Enabling Act. So Hitler keeps on acquiring more and more power through this entire weird thing, and gains popular support, and then eventually Hitler takes over. So now Hitler is in charge of Germany, and now everyone's kind of apprehensive about him. Aggression and appeasement. So after Germany becomes Nazified, everyone's kind of concerned about him. And then Hitler starts doing a bunch of weird things. Like, he starts invading places and taking weird acts of aggression. And nobody wants a second war. So whenever he does this stuff, Britain and the rest of the world is kind of like, okay, I'm not a big fan of that. But we're going to let him do that because we don't want him to go to war with us. So he keeps doing stuff, and they keep letting him do stuff, not aware that this is all mobilization for war, and he's going to go to war with them anyway. They give him Western Czechoslovakia, and then so a part of the agreement of the Treaty of Versailles was that France can use the Rhineland, which is the place that that's been occupying forever, or that it's been interested in forever, and they're going to use it to get resources. But then one day, Germany gets a bunch of soldiers there and kicks them out, and then France goes to the people, the great powers, and they're like, what the frick, dude? You just they kicked me out of Rhineland, and it's mine. And then Britain's like, yeah, they did that, but, like, we don't want Hitler to go to war with us, so we're just not going to do anything. And then France gets pissed, and also Britain just doesn't want to get on Germany's bad side because they are economically involved with them, and they want Germany money. So then Germany annexes Austria, and that's another thing. They annex Czechoslovakia. And then, after a while, it gets too much, and then war is declared. So, now we've got all these people, the Axis powers and the Allied powers, and now they're going to war, and it's World War II. Hitler is, like, going Super Saiyan, and he's got his new orator. He wants to establish National Socialism and the Holocaust across all of Europe. And he ends up occupying France. So he conquers France, and he establishes the Vichy of France. And that's, like, this whole government that he has that's, like, a puppet government. He has a lot of puppet governments that are fascist governments that are led by people he picks, and then he uses them to control these smaller states that are involved with him. And France becomes one of them.
Do you like puppets?
They're puppet governments. So...
I like puppets.
And then Japan is over here. Japan is, like, they want to become big boys. They're sort of in a fascist state, and they want to establish the Greater East Asian Coast Prosperity Sphere, and that's, like, they wanted to free Asian from colonialism, Western imperialism. That's this big thing that's been happening because they're occupying there and getting resources from there. And then Japan was like, no. But a lot of people think that it was just their excuse to grow because they were hungry. And
Were they trying to look cool in front of the big kids too?
maybe. But anyway, then Japan is
Edgy
worried that
boys.
America is going to declare war on them, so they bomb Pearl Harbor. And this is the thing that finally gets them into the war. That's the thing that finally gets America into the war. Hinge of Fate. So now there's a two-front war. There's Germany and Italy, and then there's Japan. And they're sitting. Yeah. So now they're all. Hitler is doing his thing. But anyway, so there's this general policy among the Allies that they're going to get Hitler first before they do anything with Japan. So they're gonna yeet Hitler out of existence, and then they're going to worry about Japan. And Hitler is like, oh, that sucks. Yeah. So, a bunch of Allied victories. Yeah. So, all this stuff happens. It's really not that important, but the Allies win. And they win in Germany, and then America drops an atomic bomb on Japan, and they win. And that's World War II. So, also Hitler
And
dies.
America what?
America drops the atomic bombs on Japan, not Germany. So yeah, they're all gone.
Spoiler
World War II
alert.
is basically over. That's all you need to know. And also Hitler is dead.
All is dead.
And now we are looking at the Cold War. Cold War.
Oh,
This
that's
is the
when-
last thing. But
Alright.
basically everybody is in shambles. Displaced persons are all around. Everybody knows about the Holocaust now, and Soviet Union versus America is a big thing. Space race happens, West versus East, Truman Doctrine. So they all, after World War II, they divided up, the Allies divided up Germany between Russia, Britain, France, and America. United States. So they divided that up, but that eventually becomes the Soviet bloc and the Western bloc, which is basically America, Britain, all these folks versus Stalin and the communists. So then this whole entire idea with East Berlin and West Berlin, communist versus capitalist comes in. And in order to stop the devastated countries from turning to communism in times of economic disparity, the Truman Doctrine is dedicated to containing communism, and then the Marshall Plan is this economic plan that they start to pump money into Europe and to rebuild it. And it includes a bunch of big stamps that they put everywhere, basically saying
Bunch
that
of big stamps.
they said big stamps. So they basically put big
Oh.
stamps over all the things that they buy for them, and they're saying, this was provided by America. And everyone's like, oh, sweet.
Brought to you in part by...
In response to this, the Soviet Union makes the Council for Mutual Economic Assistance, or Comecon, and it's it does the
Comecon?
same thing, but with communism. And then... so at some point the Berlin blockade comes in because so the United States introduces a new currency into Berlin without telling the Eastern things. It's a Western currency, and now everybody wants this new currency that they didn't announce because it's worth more. And then the Soviet Union is like, okay, this isn't cool, bro. You violated the treaty. We're going to close off East Berlin, and nobody can get any money or food. So, haha, everybody's gonna starve. You're so much for that. And then...
That's
So
a
yeah,
big oof.
then that happens, and then the Berlin airlift is a thing. Should all know what the Berlin airlift is. But
Is that
so the Berlin airlift, Winston Churchill and United States bitch send
The
planes
Kool-Aid Man.
to deliver supplies to the people of East Berlin. Then the blockade ends
bring
because
up
the
the
Soviet
Berlin
Union is
Wall.
just like, we're tired of this. And then after that, the United States forms NATO. What do they do? What does NATO do? NATO is just there, I guess. But yeah, NATO does something. And then the Soviets organized Warsaw Pact in response. So now it's NATO versus Warsaw Pact. And now everybody's developing nuclear weapons and space shit. And yeah. Oh, Christian Democrats are a big thing. Christian Democrats, they become one of the big things that comes up. It's basically Christian Democrats versus socialists at this point. And there's just this
I like
whole
how
entire
you
back
said
and forth.
Christian
everywhere.
Democrats. They're basically just Christian Democrats.
They're based on Christian ideology, all this stuff. Common market, that's a thing, I guess.
I'd rather have communism.
More capitalism stuff. Socialist realism, all this stuff. The Eastern Bloc and the Western Bloc are things. So basically, communists and capitalists hate each other, and that's the big thing. Decolonization happens. All of the Cold War attacks were fought in... a lot of this stuff was fought in these colonies that they had around there. So, like, the Korean War, and then there was the Greek Civil War, all of this stuff. It was just a bunch of people getting mad. Communists versus capitalists, all this stuff. Asian power struggles,
It's
decolonization.
like KSI versus Logan Paul.
I'm not talking to you. And
Yes, you
all
are.
the stuff is happening. And then finally, after all this is happening, and there's all these Cold War tensions going on, well, Stalin dies first of all, and he's replaced by somebody. Then there's John F. Kennedy and all this stuff. I forget what his name is that he's replaced with, but he's there. And fuck yeah. So he's replaced by some bitch. And then that bitch
Gorbachev.
doesn't want to go to war with America, but then he does. And then there's this whole entire thing. The Cuban Missile Crisis happens, and that's basically where the Soviet Union wants to put missiles somewhere, or
But
somebody
then
wants
else
to
goes
put
no, and
somebody wants to
That
put missiles
stuff
somewhere,
happens.
and then the U.S. is like no, and then they invade, and then the people of Cuba say no, and then there's this huge bloodbath, and the United States people are mad. Or they're not bad.
No,
They're
like-
dead.
They're like, come on, guys, where am I supposed to put my missiles? It's not
No,
fair.
the United States isn't putting
US is
missiles
just like-
anywhere.
not here.
Well, the United States is putting missiles somewhere, but not in Cuba. But yeah. So then there's a bunch of stuff going on in Russia, and then so yeah, the Cuban Missile Crisis. United States, they eventually convinced them to take their missiles out, and yeah. Then that whole war is averted, and then eventually the Soviet Union collapses. Berlin Wall separation is growing, and then Vladimir Putin comes in eventually. And
Daddy.
there have been times where we were almost with everybody was almost united, but then they never did. And then there's all the Yugoslavias and this stuff like that. And then all this stuff, globalization, all this happens, and basically everything sucks.
Global warming.
And that's the entirety of European history. There's nothing else that matters.
Hell yeah, industry.
Hell yeah. So you're finished?
This is epic.
Yes, I'm finished.
Can I
Oh,
play
you're gonna get
sidelines
an A.
now?
Sure. Oh
Yes, you
wait,
can
he?
play sideline
I have no
bitches.
authority. Hell
Thank
yeah.
you.
So what's the rest of the stream
Ain't
gonna
it
be?
funny?
I don't know.
What's the rest of the stream?
I don't fucking know.
Metal, how was
Why
your
don't we
day?
search up Minecraft Gacha Live?
Oh,
Hero
hell yeah.
Brian.
Hero
I'm not gonna be
Brian.
watching anything. I'm hungry. I'm
Then
upset.
go eat something and then join
What?
I'll end the stream first, probably, because I've been streaming for 3
Wait.
hours.
Wait,
Alright.
Scorchly, it's like 9 o'clock. How come you haven't eaten yet?
I've eaten today, but I haven't eaten since like 3 o'clock.
Well, how come you haven't eaten Din Din?
Because I've been doing this.
You're like, well then, you know,
I
food
went-
comes first. Why couldn't you have just eaten while doing it?
Because I was doing this.
You could have eaten
I
while doing it.
ate. I went on a run. Then I started this.
Oof. Well then, you know, you can eat while on a run.
That's not going to do anything.
Yeah, just run to your nearest, I don't know, Subway or some shit, and then eat like the, I don't know, number 4 Jared special or some shit. Whatever they have at Subway.
Your ideas suck.
I'm a what?
You suck. You're the worst.
Ooh, I do suck. Ain't it funny? So Scorchly, how was your day?
Fuck off.
I'm just trying to make
Hey,
conversation.
Scorchel, how was your day?
How was your day,
Fuck
Metal?
off.
Wait, what did I do to make you angry?
I don't know. You should all suck.
Oh hell no. Metal, how was your day?
Pretty shitty.
Oh, that's good. Mine was alright.
Epic, dude.
I'm gonna play some fucking Mortal Kombat 11.
Hey, no, you're not gonna play anything because we are gonna watch Herobrine and Gacha Life, loser.
Oh yeah, that's right. Can we just the rest of the stream? Can that just be that, please?
I'm going to end this stream. The stream is over. We're done with
Can
the
we
stream.
still do Herobrine though? Can we
Okay.
still do Herobrine?
See you later, stream. You guys were pretty gang.
Yeah, subscribe to Jake Paul.
Donate to my Patreon.
Yeah,
Patreon.com/chills.
Yeah, subscribe to Chills, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to T-Series, Logan Paul, Jake Paul, unsubscribe from Scorchly.
Subscribe and then resubscribe to Scorchel and then sub to Angry Video Game Nerd and everyone
Then
else.
sub to Nostalgic, then sub to
Nostalgic
Channel
Critic,
Awesome.
Joey's World Tour.
Toys in Japan. Justin Bieber Vivo.
You know, I'm kind of interested in Wendy's Vor right now.
Okay, the stream is